All right, are we good? Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat Live. We are back with UWCL coverage tonight as we kick off a weird little run of watching exclusively Arsenal in the Women's Super League. All their games rearranged from earlier in the season are over the next 7 or 8 days. So we've got a lot of Arsenal over the next 2 weeks. Obviously their participation in the Women's Champions Cup, the Women's Champions League, and this rearranged game tonight from a Watchalong pitch in February. I mean, it's a very jam-packed schedule for Arsenal at the end of this campaign, Harry. Tonight, they take a trip to Brighton, a place that hasn't exactly been a happy hunting ground over the last few seasons, but they'll be hoping they can get a result this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. A big game for Arsenal, and yeah, I think especially after the result of the weekend, this is an important one, and yeah, they need to get a result on the board. Of course, they've still got quite a few games in hand, but they've got to make sure that they win them to close the gap up to the top two and just solidify that place in Europe. They look pretty comfortable, but it's a lot nicer to have the points than it is to have the game. So Arsenal have got to make sure that they go out tonight, they get the result on the board and make sure they're taking 3 points back to London. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy one. They know the quality that this Brighton side do carry. Hopefully they'll be hoping to bounce back and deliver a strong performance tonight.
Well, yeah, they're looking to exact immediate revenge. The last meeting between the two sides, a win for Brighton in the Women's FA Cup, and they were dominant, I think it's fair to say, that day at Meadow Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Brighton were excellent in that game, and Arsenal, of course, with their eyes on other fixtures, being distracted by the Champions League, probably caught them out a little bit in that one. They end up losing, getting knocked out of the FA Cup, and a very disappointing day and a disappointing performance. So they know that they'll need to raise their level from that game, because if Brighton play to a similar sort of quality, then it's going to be another very difficult challenge for Arsenal tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into the lineups then ahead of this one, as we are at the Broadfield Stadium in Crawley. We'll kick off with the home side, Brighton. It is a 3-4-3 for Brighton today. In goal, Chiamaka and Adozi. The back three then, Hayes, Minami and Rule, with McLaughlin or Slegers in the wing-back positions. A midfield pivot of Sonoda alongside Nordam, and a completely changed front three of Reina, Camacho, and a first start for Olaug Tveten. So very different looking Brighton side, particularly from the one that beat Arsenal in that game, but also from what we've seen for Brighton throughout this season. Lots of rotation in there, with them perhaps having one eye on the FA Cup game coming up this weekend. What do you make of the lineup?
Yeah, I think it's a good team, as you say. It's obviously not their strongest 11. They're resting the key players for the game at the weekend, which is a lot bigger for their season. Now they can't really move too far in the table or not move anywhere detrimental. So, yeah, full focus now on the FA Cup for them. And yeah, this will be a very frustrating game because it should have been played early in the season. They'd have liked to have a week rest before the FA Cup semi-final and be fully prepared. That's why they're resting tonight. They're viewing this as a bit of a free hit. If they beat Arsenal, happy days. But at the end of the day, they're playing better opposition in a game that doesn't really mean too much for their season at this point in time. So I can understand why Vidicic has rested, but it is still a decent side with a bit of quality across the board and still got enough to give Arsenal a good challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some players I'm really excited to watch. Tveten has not been given anywhere near enough minutes, but I think she's the kind of player who could absolutely thrive in these kind of games. I think what we saw of her at Vålerenga was that she often shone in those games against a stronger opposition where they would stick everyone behind the ball and they'd lead Tveten as an outlet. And I think that will be her kind of role tonight. I think Camacho, we've seen in games this season that she can be an absolute live wire, and her energy and her she's a hive of activity up front. So I think in terms of that intensity, particularly when you look at Arsenal's backline, I think there's going to be chances tonight for Camacho to get in behind, to create space, to put those defenders under pressure when they're in possession. And so there's going to be opportunities tonight. They've really got to step up. The big weakness for me comes in the midfield partnership. I don't think we've seen much or anywhere near enough of Sonoda and Nordam. I think Simmons and Kankovic are such an integral part of this Brighton team that taking them both out for this game, I think, significantly weakens them. But the back line staying broadly the same, I think, is important. And that could be crucial, really, obviously giving Venegas that rest going into the FA Cup time. So some big changes for Brighton, putting faith in players who perhaps haven't played a lot of football this season. Let's take a look then at the Arsenal side. Some rotation for Arsenal in this game. It's a 4-2-3-1 for the Gunners. In goal, definitely Van Domslar keeps her starting spot in the side. A back four then of Holmberg, Kadina, Wubben-Moy and Taylor Hines. The midfield pivot, Caldente, comes out of the side as it's Kim Little alongside Palova. On one wing, it's Ford. On the other, Frida Murnham. On the other, Olivia Smith, sorry, Frida Marnham in the 10, and leading the line, Alessia Russo back playing up front for Arsenal. Let's start though with the rotation in the back line. A lot of rotation for Arsenal. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it was always expected. You know, Leah Williamson's just come back from a pretty long-term injury, was thrown into a lot of minutes with the Champions League games and even played quite a few minutes, bizarrely, against Leicester, but still was thrown right back into the action. So a deserved rest for her in the back four. And McCabe, similarly, has played a lot of minutes with the Champions League and all that. So giving Hines a go is exactly why they brought Hines in. But it is fairly rotated. It's it's a bit of a. It's still a good back four, of course, but it's a back four we haven't really seen too much of this season in that configuration. Very intriguing to see how they get on, but understandable rotation really with how heavy the fixture schedule has been to give those key players a bit of a rest.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really important game for Wubben-Moy. I think we've seen at times this season when Kadina starts that it's going to fall on Wubben-Moy to protect her. I think that Kadina, it has limitations to her game. I think we have seen those exposed in previous WSL matches. And so that would be a concern for me. I think obviously Hines as well at left back is very attacking an option. Holmberg at right back's a very attacking option. Make no mistake of it, that backline shouldn't have any issues against the front line that Brighton have put up today. You know, if they were going up against, say, Kay, Haley, Kirby, I would sympathise because I think, you know, there's a real opportunity here that Brighton are able to exploit that. They've got some genuinely top players in those positions. But it's a very rotated front line for Brighton tonight, so there aren't really any excuses. Kadina has to step up to this occasion. She's up against Carla Camacho, a player who has very few goals. I believe one goal in the league this season. Yeah, one goal in the league this season. And that came against Chelsea, so she's a big game player. But there are no excuses for Kadina to not be able to handle her this evening. So she's got to step up for Arsenal. I don't think Slegers trusts much of her rotation. I don't think she trusts the depth in the squad. And this is an opportunity really for players like Palova, Marnham, Kadina. They're fighting for their place in next year's Arsenal team. They're all players who I think would be viewed as fairly expendable. If they can come in towards the end of the season and put on some good performances, maybe they keep themselves at Arsenal another season. Maybe they put themselves in with a fighting chance. Yeah,
exactly that. I think that these are the games that the rotation players are trusted to come in and deliver. This is why rotation players exist in football squads, but to come in, you know, and play these games where you're coming up against a rotated Brighton side who are good, but you want to get the result. You need to get the result, and they need to step up. They need to deliver a performance that will be good enough to beat the likes of Brighton. And yeah, it can be difficult as a player when, and this is where it can fall a little bit on Slegers, where when you don't trust. We saw it last season. If you don't trust those rotation options to give them enough minutes, when you do give them minutes, they're not going to be good enough and they're going to make mistakes. And that will be very key for me tonight to see what kind of level the likes of Kadina and Palova can deliver, because we haven't seen that much of them this season. I think it is important that your rotation players are starting pretty often to make sure that when you do need them, they are match sharp. So we'll be interesting to see what they're like in this game, because they haven't, Kadina's had quite a few starts to be fair, but I think especially in Palova's case, not that many starting minutes. It's not that easy to just slot straight in and deliver quality from minute one. So it'll be intriguing to see how they settle into the game.
Yeah, well, just looking at the stats, 3 starts for Kadina this season, 4 starts for Palova, but neither have had many minutes. I mean, you're looking at, I think, a few hundred for Palova, 400 minutes for Palova this season. So it's very difficult to get a run of form going and impress and have that consistency when you have so few opportunities to show it. And I mean, I think Palova's a player who will move on this side, but if she can come into this kind of game and show some quality, then that's absolutely important. But we saw what happened last May. I think that's what a lot of fans were worried about. They played Brighton, they rotated the team because they were focused on the Champions League, and they lost 4-2. And they also got tanked by Aston Villa in that run as well. So those players have got to be better in this kind of game. And I think that when we're looking at Arsenal over the summer, yes, the signings of Stanway and Battier and Reuter are really exciting, but I think there's also something to be said of the floor of the squad, as well as bringing in some of those ceiling-raising signings. So that's a key thing Arsenal have got to focus on this summer window. A few messages in the live chat. Jeremy's saying Brighton starting Sake on the bench seems to be a bit strange, and they're focusing fully on the FA Cup semi-final this weekend. A chance to play at Wembley is all Brighton want. They can't go any higher in the league now, and while they'd love to finish top half, it's still in their hands. Even if they lose this game, their goal difference is much stronger than London City's. They've got a neutral goal difference at 0. London City's is at -8, and it was much worse than that only a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I think Brighton, and it's all in their hands. They can beat Tottenham on the final day, then they confirm a top half finish. So they're not too worried about tonight. Of course, they'd love to get a result, but Brighton's focus is on the game on Sunday because they would love to be in an FA Cup final.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that, especially because they're playing Liverpool, Brighton will view that as a massive opportunity, probably their best opportunity that they'll get for ages to get into an FA Cup final. So yeah, understandably the priority, and it's a free hit for them, which is a perfect situation for them. Not so perfect for Arsenal, because while the Gunners have got other games in hand, they want to win these to make sure they catch up for Chelsea. If they lose one of these games in hand, then suddenly it gets very tight between them and Chelsea for second, and obviously Man City fans will be delighted with that result. So it's not an ideal situation for Arsenal, playing against a side who have got nothing to lose in this game. But I think that can go the other way potentially, whereas Brighton won't really mind if they do end up falling to defeat. So yeah, understandable from Brighton's point of view, and Arsenal got to make sure it doesn't catch them out.
Absolutely, and while it is a slim chance now, the title for Arsenal, we can't go into tonight's game without discussing the permutations. If anything other than an Arsenal win happens, Man City will be crowned champions this evening. A bit of a drab way to do it. They'd have loved to do it against Liverpool, but obviously Brighton beating them 2 weeks ago now would have been that has completely derailed that their title chase a little bit, or at least delayed it. If Arsenal win tonight, it will go on again until the weekend, then again till Wednesday, potentially all the way to the final day. But Arsenal would need to be flawless from here on out, and will need City to lose on the final day of the season against West Ham. So it is a long shot, but they've just got to do their best and see if they get lucky.
Yeah, exactly that. At the end of the day in football, you can only control your own results, and if they win every game and by some miracle West Ham turn over City, then they could go on, they'd win the league. So you've just, if you're Arsenal, control the controllables. Try and forget about the Champions League defeat on Saturday, and go into this one, hit the ground running, and look to put the pressure onto City.
Absolutely, and they haven't won trophies this season, Arsenal, because they did win the FIFA plate. So they've always got that in their arsenal. We've got a couple minutes to kick off. Players out onto the field. So let's dive into our predictions ahead of this one. If you're watching along to the show, get involved in the live chat. Let us know your scoreline predictions and make sure to vote in the polling chat as well. We're going to start things here in the studio, and we'll start with yourself, Harry. What's your prediction as Brighton host Arsenal?
I think Arsenal will come out as winners in this one. I think they'll want to bounce back and get 3 points on the board and look to close up to the top two. Brighton rotating today especially is kind of just, if it was a full strength Brighton against rotated Arsenal, maybe I'd fancy another upset, but I just think that with both sides rotating, Arsenal should have enough to get the result across the line here. I will say Brighton 0, Arsenal 2, and I will go from a goal from Alessia Russo, and then I will say I'm going to go Caitlin Ford to step up and provide a big performance. Has been missing this season, has delivered quite a few below par performances, but I'm going to back Caitlin Ford to get on the score sheet and put in a decent shift.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to back a bit of an upset. I think City will be crowned champions tonight. I think it's going to be Brighton 1, Arsenal 1. I think it will be a fairly tight game. I think both sides will have chances and not take them. And I think Brighton will score first through Olav Tveden, her first goal for the club. And I think that just feels like the kind of thing that could happen this evening, where a player who hasn't started a WSL game before comes in and scores against Arsenal. That feels very much the script this evening. But I think Arsenal will find a goal. I think it'll be Mariona Caldente off the bench, potentially a penalty, or a situation where it bobbles through on the edge of the box and she lashes it home. That'd be my prediction. A 1-1 draw on Man City to be crowned champions tonight. Jeremy's saying 1-0 to Brighton. Fair enough. Loca's saying I picked Brighton before knowing the limited squad. So now I'm going to go for 2-1 Arsenal. Kevin's saying 2-1 Arsenal as well. Jennifer saying 3-1 Arsenal. And Shadow, welcome to the streams. As if this is anything like the 4-2 game from last season, then we're in for a treat. Yeah, I think it could have been if Brighton had put out their full strength side. But I think that Arsenal should be able to handle Brighton's attack this evening.
Yeah, they should be. As you say, with the rotated side, it doesn't look as strong for Brighton. I think that will have an impact. I certainly don't see them scoring 4 tonight. If they do, then as Shadow says, we're in for an absolute cracker. But Arsenal got 7. There were 7 goals in the Arsenal-Leicester game last Wednesday, so maybe we'll have some more midweek madness. I don't think it'll be 7 goals in one direction, but yeah, hopefully we get a few goals tonight.
Yeah, Brighton's front three tonight with 6 combined starts between the three of them. So a very inexperienced front line. But we are preparing to get underway here at the Broadfield Stadium. Arsenal hoping to get back to winning ways after losing 3-1 to Leones on Saturday. A disappointing semi-final defeat. But and it does mean they won't win any major trophies this season. But lots of positives to look at. They could end up within touching distance of the title. And it will be Brighton to get us underway in this game. It's going to be Caitlin Hayes to take it from kickoff. And she's going to launch it long as Brighton looks for Arsenal under immediate pressure out towards Smila Holmberg. Arsenal in possession as we get underway here at the Broadfield Stadium. Here is Van Domselaar out to the left-hand side. Now with Cadena wide into Hines. Hines pokes it down the line. It's blocked by McLaughlin. And now Cadena will play it a little bit longer. Russo holds it up, loses out to Hayes. Now Camacho dropping in to get involved. And back now to Rule. Here is Minami. Enadozi. Back to Minami. Hines heads the ball inside. One back now by Olav Tvedsen. And here's Nordam carrying it forwards. Tries to shift it out to the right-hand side. McLaughlin. Minami inside to Nordam. Now Rule. Back to Hayes. And wide with McLaughlin. Inside to Rule. Back down the line. McLaughlin lifts it into the box looking for Camacho. It's missed by Ruben Moy. It will fall out now to Nordam. Ola Slegers. Reina Ola Slegers through to Ola Tvedsen in the position to score. And what a save by Van Domselaar. Still alive. Camacho heads just over. And a great early chance there for Brighton, who really should take the lead there.
Yeah, Tvedsen has to score. It's really good from Brighton. It's a great ball in initially, and Wuvermoy loses her footing, nearly gets caught out by it. They rework it really nicely, and Tvedsen one-on-one with Van Domselaar, perhaps showing the lack of match sharpness, should really find the back of the net with that one. It's a smart save from Van Domselaar, but Tvedsen has to score. Brilliant ball through from Ola Slegers to pick out Tvedsen. But what a chance of Brighton early on.
That's almost the best prediction in the history of this show. If Olav Tvedsen had scored immediately. But even so, she just got in that position and it was a very tight angle. She's fired to the near post. Got to go across goal.
Yeah.
But Brighton have started the more lively here. Here's Reina on the right-hand side. Knocks it back now to Rule. Lovely turn from Charlize Rule. Under pressure here from Caitlin Ford. And now back to Hayes. All the way back to Chiamaka Enadozi. As Sharon says, also haven't watched a WSL game in about a month. So hi guys, how you both doing? Not too bad. We have got 4 WSL streams left this season. It is crazy to me that it's almost over. Ball slipped through for Arsenal. Will run through to Enadozi. Logan says, giving Arsenal's re-signings, does it look like they'll spend at the end of the season? I think it's a big summer ahead for Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially not taking a major, after winning the Champions League, not taking a major trophy this year will be a big blow. And I think that from that point of view, they've got a view at trying to build a squad that can come back next season and compete on all fronts, because this season they simply haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. 8 years since they won the WSL. It will be next season. They'll be keen to get back on top of the pile. It feels like pundits, mainstream pundits, every year seem to predict Arsenal to do it, and they just fall short. Ola Slegers out onto the left-hand side. Here's Tvedsen. Nordam. Tvedsen. And back to Minami. Enadozi. Just going to lift the ball out towards the right-hand side. Hines deals with it well in the air. And it's Rule who asserts herself in midfield, nodding it forwards into Reina, who can carry the ball here. Slips it back through for Rule. And Cadena makes a big challenge. Ruben Moy comes across. I think Cadena a little bit lucky to get a free kick there. But Arsenal getting away with that ball through. Cadena still made a good challenge, but a little bit soft of the foul.
Yeah, does really well, Cadena. Times the challenge well. Muscles off Rule. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those, I think the referees deem that Rule's pushed Cadena down there, but I think that actually discredits the tackle that Cadena, I think, slid in to win the ball rather than being pushed over. I think that's a bit of a discredit actually to the tackle that she made.
Little stepping into midfield. Rayner comes across and forces her backwards. Now with Cadena. Here's Little. Press comes from Nordam. And it's out towards the right-hand side. And that's a poor pass from Kin Little. Woven White busts a gut but can't quite get there. And I think this error proneness we've seen from Kim Little recently, it's not, typical of a player of her caliber. But I think it's just the tiredness kicking in at this point in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been very interesting to see that. I think Karen Tay has been rotated more times than Little has, and at her age, of course, she's still a top player on her day. But when you ask her to bring that kind of level every 4 days, it's just not possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Arsenal coming forwards down the right-hand side. Here's Holmberg. Wants to take on Tvbedsen. Holmberg darting down the right-hand side. Lifting it towards the back post. Ford now takes aim. It's charged down by Rule. McLaughlin with the loose ball. Hines plays it back inside. Smith cushion back to Palova, who tried to take the shot, but it's nudged away by Rayner. Hines. Ford now on the left-hand side. Looks to cut inside and releases one in towards the box. It'll bounce through without much threat for Brighton.
Yeah, it's not a bad ball from Ford, but there didn't really seem to be any runners in the penalty area. Marnham and Russo made identical runs to the front post, and it left a massive space for the ball just to bounce into and run out of play. And I think it'll be very interesting how Marnham and Russo do get on tonight. Something that it's been, we haven't seen them that often this season. We've seen them at times, of course, but we kind of got used to seeing Blackstenius and Russo, especially since the turn of the year.
Yeah, indeed. Enadozie. Short into Rule. And back to Enadozie. Going to lift it forwards up the pitch. Dina heading it away well. Little now. Nodding it into Marnham. Little. Trying to hook it towards the left-hand side. It will bobble its way through to Ford. Hines. Back to Caitlin Ford. Ford now coming inside. Looks to knock it long in behind, but it will run through once again to Enadozie. Now out to the left-hand side. Minami steps inside of possession. Enadozie. And that, a poor pass to the left-hand side. Not sure why she tried to lift that one there. Onto the head of Ola Slegers. Arsenal with the throw-in high up the pitch. Holmberg. Looking for an option here. Nobody dropping particularly quickly in order to receive the ball. Holmberg inside to Alessia Russo. Russo shifts it back to Cadena. Here's Wuben Moy, who looks down the line. Holmberg looks to drive inside with the ball. Ola Slegers turns it over, though, and now slips it forwards into Camacho. Here's Nordam out to the right-hand side. McLaughlin turns with possession. Rule. Now, Jeremy says, good pace in the game so far. Yeah, it's moved quickly. It's kind of what you expect from this kind of game. Brighton do like to make games very transitional. It's a style that Arsenal have lent on at times, but they have tried to move to more of a control style this season under Slegers. And Vladislav saying Champions League hangover. I mean, they've always struggled against, or at least last season they struggled against Brighton. Earlier this season we saw them, or a month ago we saw them struggle against Brighton. Brighton are set up very well under Dario Vidicic to beat top sides. Even the game of the Emirates earlier this season, it was an own goal, I believe, from Marissa Ola Slegers, which gave Arsenal a 1-0 victory. It was a very narrow win. And Brighton had so many chances, they just didn't take them. Ford running up against Rule. Rule wins it back. Under pressure, and Ford wins it back. Now looks to come inside with possession. Shifts it back to Hines. Now Palova. Trying to find the forward pass. Marnham does manage to touch it back to Palova. Now out wide to Caitlin Ford. Ford, not a bad delivery, but it's Caitlin Hayes who gets up and heads it away. Still bouncing around as Rule nodding it clear, and is fouled there by Freedom Marnham.
Yeah, good defending from Rule. Does well to out-jump Marnham and just gets backed into. But yeah, Brighton, they've got a knack for turning up against a bit. I mean, their biggest loss of the season is 3-0, I think, to Chelsea, which is not bad going at all when you consider that other teams have been torn apart by City, torn apart by Arsenal. Brighton, they're not that kind of side. They're not going to get turned over.
Yeah, I mean, Brighton last season were so famous for their attacking play, but were quite open defensively. This season, though, they've conceded only 25 goals. That is the 5th least in the league and the least of any side that isn't one of the top 4. Marnham drifts clear of Nordam, carrying inside, takes aim, and Enadozie, who's been key to that defensive record, making the save.
Yes, tidy for Enadozie. Marnham probably should do a little bit better. The initial run's great. Skips past Nordam, nice, gets self into a bit of room, but just drills it very centrally and low. It's quite an easy dive for Enadozie.
That's the right-hand side with Ruled. Now, McLaughlin trying to turn away from Hines. Hines pokes it out of play. And back out for a Brighton throw-in.
Arsenal will be happy, though, with the reaction. Brighton starting very quickly, big chance after a couple of minutes. It's, we saw in the FA Cup game how Brighton started strongly and never really looked back. Arsenal will be happy they've just managed to kind of set them back a little bit, drop them a bit deeper and put them under a bit more pressure.
Nordam into Sonoda. Looking to lift it in behind. That's a dangerous ball over the top. Camacho now jostling away with Smila Holmberg, and Holmberg clipping it out of play. Brighton then with the throw-in on this near side.
Yeah, Camacho doing exactly what you said she'd do in the build-up. Just, although the goals haven't been there for this season and the starts really, but when she's been on the pitch, just puts Pittle under pressure, makes Pittle, forces errors, is getting around everywhere and just causes problems for teams.
Yeah, it's something you can't really judge on statistics, but it's like busyness.
Yeah.
If there was a player with busyness per 90, she would rank top of that statistic. Yeah. Ford now into Marnham, could take aim from this kind of range, and probably should have taken aim. Tries to pass it across. It's blocked out for a corner by Minami.
Yeah, informed player sees Enadozie out of her goal there and just looks to beat her from range. But Marnham just taking that extra touch and looking to find a bit of a ambitious pass across, through bodies into Russo, which is the safer option, you feel. But yeah, I think she just got to back herself to try and lift it over the Brighton goalkeeper there.
Yeah, I don't think any player there's got to put that on target. Enadozie is having to track back in there pretty quickly. I think you've got to make life difficult for her. And Marnham there, I think, just ducking out of that opportunity, really.
Yeah.
Hines plays it short to Palova, back to Hines. Space here to put in the delivery. Gives it to Ford on the edge. Now to Hines. And tries to shift it down the line to Palova. Tidy pass. Palova now lifts it over the top towards the back post. And it's poked wide. A nice routine from Arsenal, but Moy unable to apply the finishing touch.
Yeah, I think she'll be annoyed because Enadozie completely loses it in the air and kind of leaves it. She thinks it's going over her goal, lets it run, and there were bodies there, so a bit more difficult for Moy than I originally thought, but still, she'd like to potentially got that poke more, on target.
To be fair to Enadozie there, she did track it towards her back post. It was always, she left it to be a very difficult angle. Brighton playing to the right-hand side. Here's Hayes. Kevin says Brighton's keeper's worth a few points alone. Yeah, I mean, a massive upgrade. It was one of the biggest problems, I think, for Brighton last season. Bagley had some good games, but between her and Melina Loek, they also had some really poor games. But I think Enadozie's brought in not only a world-class ability, but just consistency. Like, every goalkeeper makes mistakes, but a lot of Enadozie's mistakes come from her being too ambitious as a goalkeeper, too aggressive. And while that can cost points at times, I think more often than not, it's won them points. It's won them games. Such an assertive goalkeeper. It's why they'd never concede from corners, because she is the tallest defender in the box.
Yeah.
McLaughlin forced backwards. Now they're trying to find Camacho in behind every time at the moment. Always looking to make the run off the shoulder and just stretch that Arsenal defence. Enadozie into Minami. And back to Chiamaka Enadozie. Hayes. Carrying it forward. Shrugs off Freedom Marnham. And now McLaughlin. Battling away for possession. Gives it back now to Charlie's Rule. Minami. Rule. Can she hit? A direct pass. Plays into the feet of Camacho. Camacho tries to lay it to Sonoda, who almost gave that away, but a strong tackle. It was a poor pass back from Camacho. Sonoda did brilliantly there to make up for it and hold on to possession. She's a player we've not really seen at all, Fuka Sonoda. Ola Slegers shifting it directly, looking for Camacho. Can't quite find the Spanish striker. Here's Palova. And we're trying to play into a congested area and loses out to Minami.
Yeah, we spoke about being a big opportunity for the Arsenal rotation, but I think as well for the Brighton squad players. You know, we mentioned Tveden coming in, Camacho, Reina, Sonoda, and it's a chance for those guys to come in and impress, show that they've got the quality to play for the side and that they can deliver what Vidicic wants them to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big talking point with Brighton. They're a side who clearly have big, ambitious plans for the future. We've seen the project for the new stadium, which looks incredible, and that is going to be very expensive. And if that's going to be matched in terms of squad recruitment, or Brighton coming forward down the left-hand side, Tveden cuts across Holmberg and probably went too early there. Tveden just didn't give herself the space to come across Holmberg, instead giving the ball away. Smith backs into Ola Slegers, turns her well. That's brilliant from Smith. Finding a lot more joy than she did on the weekend. Now shifts it back to Marnham, who's pulled wide to receive. Marnham looked to go down the line. Minami has shuffled her backwards, plays it to Holmberg, and Holmberg there does well there not to stumble over the ball. It's fizzed directly at her by Holmberg, by Marnham, and Arsenal forced backwards. Cadena now to Ruben Moy. Smith here in the pocket, shifts it to Palova, back to Smith, who has been Arsenal's best player so far in this game, Olivia Smith, starting to offer a bit of threat. Hines. Cadena now across to the right-hand side with Ruben Moy. Into Marnham and tries to bounce it back there to Kim Little, who will be immediately under pressure from Camacho after that poor pass. And Cadena gives it away. Camacho can't quite find a teammate. Hines is under pressure, though, from McLaughlin and Tveden, and just fizzing out to the right-hand side with Holmberg. But Arsenal have got to be careful today. Brighton are such a good pressing team. I mean, even just Camacho alone, I think, ranks in the 77th percentile for possessions won the final third per 90. They are such a good pressing team. And that's something Arsenal have to be wary of tonight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try to go direct, and Enadozie is lurking outside of penalty area to come and collect the ball. Now, Rule. Charlie's Rule, surveying her forward options, forced to turn back now and finds her goalkeeper, Enadozie. He'll return it to Charlie's Rule. Rule stepping forwards. Now into Reina, who dropped in to receive, and back to Enadozie. Enadozie looking to lift it out to the right-hand side. She'll lift it right the way through. Cadena's going to get there. Just about. And gives it back to Van Domselaar. Ruben Moy. Into Kim Little. Back now to goalkeeper Van Domselaar. Brighton keeping the press up here. Here's Holmberg. So Arsenal look to play out. Going direct down the right-hand side. Smith trying to run off the shoulder of Ola Slegers. But sweeping quickly. Enadozie and Brighton hold on to possession. Ola Slegers looks down the line. Tveden. Inside to Sonoda. Lovely roll there from Sonoda off her opponent. Brighton hold on to possession wonderfully. That's beautiful football from Brighton to get out of trouble.
Yeah, really nice. And again, that they are the makings of an elite team. That's what elite teams do. Is get out of those situations. But it feels like we've got the end-to-end nature of this game without the chances at either end. Both sides just seem to be faltering once they get into that final third. But that to and froing between both sides having a bit of possession is definitely there.
Yeah, final ball's lacking for both teams though, isn't it? I think Arsenal just trying to play it in behind, and Edozie's always going to get there. And Brighton just not quite combining very well, which I think is kind of expected with players who haven't played much at all, but especially haven't played much together. Palova drops into receive. Ford back now to Taylor Hines, who shifts it to Cadena. I think as well, Brighton are very happy to let Cadena have the ball tonight.
Yeah.
Because in the middle of that back three, it's her responsibility to play those wider passes, play those long balls, and really stretch Brighton. But she's just not doing that. Instead, she's playing quite safe.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have, obviously, Williamson, but also even a Ruben Moy, they're going to give you that range. They're going to give you that accuracy of passing. Hayes. Now ruled. And a dozy. All lifted out to Rule. Tries to poke it up the line and just about finds its way to McLaughlin. Back to Rule. And now Hayes. And Hayes looking to switch the play. And she'll find Marissa Ollislagers. Here come Brighton. Ollislagers shifts it into Tvedten, who wants to take on Holmberg here. Now back to Ollislagers. Lovely attacking combination, but Smith putting in the defensive work, winning back possession, and knocks it clear. Minami heading it down. Here's Nordam. Hayes. Now ruled. Back to Hayes. And into Minami.
Yeah, again, it's exactly what we were talking about. Brighton doing well. They get into the box, but Smith recovers well, and it's just that they can't get that final pass off before the challenge comes in.
Ball down the line into McLaughlin, and now to Rayner. Ruled, Rayner. Here's Fuka Sonoda. He's almost dropped into the back three there. Minami. And Ollislagers again. Back to Minami. But yeah, Brighton just toing and froing, trying to find a way through. They started so quickly in this game, getting their shots away in the early stages, but haven't actually had a shot now since the second minute, when Tvedten and Camacho went close in quick succession. Waka Minami knocks it wide to Tvedten. Tvedten inside to Nordam. Now Minami. And across the back line into Hayes. Hayes lifting it forwards. Wonderful control by Tvedten. And tries to rush the ball into the box. Just didn't need to do that, did she? Tvedten.
Yeah, and I think there's been a couple of those tonight for Tvedten. There's signs of a top player, which we know that she is, but perhaps just a bit rusty and still trying to adjust to the game, because we know that she can do better in these kind of situations. The touch is brilliant. Touch is absolutely brilliant, but the ball is just rushed and fired in wildly for no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Just didn't need to do it, really. I think that's the frustration there for Dario Vidicic on the touchline. Wubben-Moy sends it up the line. Minami heading it down. Tvedten can't quite get there. It's smashed out of play by Alessia Russo, who hasn't seen much of the ball tonight, Russo.
No, really hasn't. I think that'll be a concern. Leading the line as well. You want to see her getting on the ball, getting into good positions and having opportunities to score. I
mean, lashing that out of play is only her fifth touch of the match. Hasn't really been involved. Nordam tries to go back now, and Ford is going to pick it off. And a chance now, fires towards goal and fires wildly over the bar.
Yes, another wild attempt, and quite a few of those now at both ends. But does well again, Ford, to pounce on it. And does the right thing this time. Sees Hernandez off her line and fancies it. Absolutely the right decision, but that is, just smashed well wide of the mark. And again, an informed player probably hits the target with that.
Enadozi. Now Minami. Looking to lift it forwards. Wubben-Moy will get there with the header. Tvedten coming across and asserting herself. Holmberg's in under pressure here and has ran that out for a Brighton throw-in. And Vidicic quick to act and claim the throw-in for his side. Sonoda. Now with Hayes. Out to the right-hand side, McLaughlin. Here is Rayner. McLaughlin. Rayner. Pokes it inside to Charlize Rule, who is trying to find a better pass. Forced back to Hayes. Now Rule. And returns it to Minami. Hayes. McLaughlin trying to play that forward pass. Kadina will win it back. And out for an Arsenal throw. Hines finds Kadina. And now Rousseau. Rule wins it back and Brighton in possession. Enadozie. Minami. Brighton come to the left-hand side. Inside again to Nordam. Minami. Chiamaka Enadozie. Looks to lift it to the left-hand side. Brought down well by Marissa Slegers. And now into Minami. Enadozie. Nodded through, and Camacho there tries to get away from Cadena, but it's one as it falls to Taylor Hines, and Arsenal now can try and come forwards. Ruben Moy direct past the left-hand side with Ford. Ford gets away from Rule, but she's just coming backwards. And now to Ruben Moy. Marnham. Someone's got to flip the switch for Arsenal. Become a little bit braver, be a bit more direct with the ball. Ruben Moy there finds Ford an acre of space, and Ford comes backwards. It's just too cautious. They are coming forwards now, though. Marnham pokes it through, and Enadozie will sweep it, clears it away convincingly. Rayner shifts it to Sonoda. Flips it off to the left-hand side, and now with Ola Slegers. Into the feet of Tvete. And Brighton getting a lot of touches in this game. Tvete.
Arsenal have got to realise at some point that the ball over the top isn't going to work.
They're playing underdog football. They've had 40% of the ball in the opening stages, and their only chance has just been to knock it in behind and hope to catch Brighton out. But Brighton are very comfortable at the moment. They just haven't really converted that into getting shots away. They've had those early chances, but other than that, they've just it hasn't quite clicked in the final third. Hayes dealing with Alessia Russo. And now can clear the ball away, which Cadena will get to. Hines. Across the back line into Lotta Ruben Moy. Marnham. Plays it inside. Hayes picks it off. And here's Rayner, who shrugs off the challenge of Palova. McLaughlin. Now to Sonoda. Rayner. Back to Fuka Sonoda. And now Rule. Here is Caitlin Hayes. Smith wins it back, and here come Arsenal. Marnham, Russo. Minami deals there, and it's pulled back for a foul. I think it's maybe for the earlier foul. I'm not sure on that one, actually. But Smith is down, and a free kick for Arsenal.
Yeah, just an unfortunate one. Hayes slips as she's bringing this ball forwards and slips into Smith, who is at the time making the challenge to win the ball back. But yeah, Smith's all right and won the ball anyway for her team.
Yeah, indeed. Not a terrible position this for the free kick, Arsenal. As they look to try and put some pressure on the Brighton goal.
Yeah, this has got to come to something.
Yeah,
especially in these kind of games where no one's really taken it by the scruff of the neck. Neither side have looked incredibly convincing in front of goal. You get a set piece, you've got to put the opposition under pressure. Get the ball in the box and make sure that someone in a red shirt puts this, towards the target.
Ball floated in, the header across goal, and Enadozie able to catch it. And I think there was either an offside or a foul in there either way.
Yeah, with Moy, has managed to wriggle free, get a half-decent header away in an offside position anyway.
Indeed, it's just gone too early. Now, well, the header didn't threaten right in either way. It was a comfortable claim for Enadozie.
Yeah. Not bad, though. But, yeah, got to time the run better than that. And it's going to take a stronger aerial attempt to beat Enadozie.
Down the line from Rule, Sonoda finds McLaughlin, who is crunched there between a couple of Arsenal players. Sonoda slipping it in behind, and Ruben Moy gets in front of it against Camacho, but she's under pressure here. Does well there to get away from Carla Camacho. But Cadena now is under pressure as well from Rayner. Knocks it into Vex Rayner and will earn her side a throw-in.
That ball from Sonoda has got to be better.
Yeah.
Got to be tries to just play it into the feet of Camacho, but needs to be in front of Carla Camacho to allow her to beat with more of her pace.
And in that foot race, you're going to back Camacho every time over
Yeah.
Wubbenmoy. You've got to slip it in behind and trust that she's quick enough to get there.
Yeah.
I think just trying to be a little bit too cute about it. Rule poking it inside. Little now. Settling on the ball. Immediately under pressure from Nordam. Palova out towards the right-hand side. Arsenal don't want to play out here, and Wubbenmoy turns and goes backwards. Van Domselaar. Here's Little. Into Lotte Wubbenmoy. Space down the right-hand side. Goes inside to Palova. Wubbenmoy. Still not liking her options down the line, Wubbenmoy. Exchange with Palova once again. Will now have to go forwards and somehow finds a way to go backwards. Under pressure from Camacho. And Arsenal here just about cling on to the ball. Palova goes down the line. Holmberg. All the way back to Wubbenmoy again. Lovely turn from Little, who somehow stays on balance there and keeps hold of possession.
Does really well. It's just trying, but Arsenal need to get things to tick over a bit quicker. You know, they're going to have to move the ball at a better pace to play through Brighton.
Palova losing out there, and here come Brighton. Camacho into Tvedsen. Slegers. Now Minami. And across to Caitlin Hayes, who is going to play it into Rayner. One back well by Ford. Here's Russo. And well dealt with there. Unless Russo by Brighton, but Russo's done well to win outside a throw-in.
Yeah, and that's what players like Russo have got to do. Just find ways to get Arsenal up the pitch.
Shot now from range from Arsenal over the bar. Don't mind that low from Freedom Arnhem. No one's got enough shots away. Or let's say Russo, sorry. No one's got enough shots away. Just drops in, receives the ball, takes aim.
Yeah, no harm in doing that at this point in the game. Just picks it up, gives it, got quite a bit of space. Hayes isn't too tight to her. It's not a bad effort. Seen over by Enendozi, but, you know, had her thinking at least.
I think it's just the problem for Arsenal is that Russo's got to drop in there to get a touch because no one else is creating anything.
Yeah.
Hey, stepping forward. Now Sonoda is just drifting through the midfield. Look to lift it in behind. And it's going to find its way to Tvedsen. Slag is in attack as well. And I think there Tvedsen may have just gone a little early. And indeed, the Lions women's flag is up.
Bit of a sloppy one that from Tvedsen. Just got you more aware. Look along the line. And just make sure that just wasn't running in behind, just receiving the ball. Needed to be a little bit tidier.
Hines back to Kadina. And now to Manu, who's brought down by Sonoda. And that will be a free kick. And Russo's dropping so deep. That was Russo again, sorry. Dropping into midfield a lot tonight. And allowing Marnham just to go and play as that striker. Kadina out to the right-hand side. One back in there by Rule, who can't find a teammate with the pass forward. And so Arsenal back in possession. Kadina. It's fascinating. Brighton just aren't pressing Leah Kadina at all.
Yeah.
Instead, they've got Nordam on Little, and then they're pressing both the wide centre-halves in possession. Hines down the line. Hayes will get across and deals with Russo. Makes the tackle inside, and it falls to Sonoda. Here is Rayner, who tries there to turn and play it in behind. Just doesn't get the power behind it. And Palova recovers possession for Arsenal. Now Wubbenmoy. Kadina again. Plays it into Little. Bouncing it back to Kadina. Who's taking her time here. Consider her forward pass. Now Hines. That's a poor pass inside. It's straight to Sonoda. Nordam, Minami. It just looks very tired and very sloppy from Arsenal. It feels very similar to the game on Sunday.
Yeah.
A side who are very good off the ball in Brighton are just finding so much joy in their press, and it's just been sloppy from Arsenal. But this time it's Arsenal make the good press, and that clumsy from Minami. Russo buying the foul to the fullest extent. It will be yellow card from Minami.
Yeah, that's just don't get away with those.
No, well, Russo I think does incredibly well to make sure she doesn't. Minami here holds onto the back of her shirt. She's just been caught out, and actually as Minami lets go, Russo hits the floor.
Yeah, silly for now. Just heavy touch, put in a bit of trouble, lost the ball, and then it's probably the right decision to bring her down there and allow Brighton to get back in.
Trying to shield it out of play there. I think just took a bit too much of a liberty there, Minami.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those, I think a better a full strength Brighton side with a bit more quality in the final third probably would have scored by now.
Kevin says worth a yellow. Yeah, probably. I think Arsenal we're looking to break away there quite positively. But yeah, 35 minutes played here. Let us know in the live chat what you've made of this first 35 minutes. 2 shots on target in total between these two sides. Holmberg on this free kick then. And we'll lift it into the area. It bounces through. And now at the back post, Kadina geared up for the shot. And well, actually commits the foul there. Catching Rule on the follow through as she missed the ball. And it will be a free kick for Brighton.
Yeah, just takes all the pressure off. Not a bad ball in from Holmberg. Does well to get some distance on it from the touch line.
I think we spoke a lot in the game against Leones about that lack of assertion, lack of height, and lack of physicality. And you see it there. No one's challenging the ball for Arsenal. Yeah. No one's trying to get on the end of it. It's the same with defending set pieces against Leones. Hayes now will lift that down the line. Hines heading it back the other way. Ford loses out. Camacho trying to bring it down. And now Rayner battling away. Back to McLaughlin. Hines shifts it inside. Here is Russo, who now tries to knock it out towards the right wing. Holmberg. Who can she find with the forward pass? Holmberg. Plays it back to Ruben Moy. And now Kadina. Ruben Moy. It's lovely from Palova to drop in and receive. Now knocks it back to Lotta Ruben Moy. Holmberg. Brilliant work from Slegers to win it back. And now Camacho. Smith comes across, makes the tackle. It's out for a Brighton throw-in. Kevin says, sight unseen, I would have guessed both sides are at the same place in the table. Yeah, I mean, that's not a great indication of Arsenal's performance, but I think that's probably where Arsenal's backups are at. If you think about a lot of the players that are featuring tonight, they could very realistically play for a side in that sort of realm. Yeah. If you look at the likes of a Kadina, a Palova, a Marnham, if they were to move to someone in the middle of the table, you wouldn't think that was, that's not a ridiculous suggestion. Even someone like Taylor Hines, of course, came from Liverpool last season, who were a mid-table side. She hasn't, I don't think she stepped up massively since she's joined Arsenal. Ball lifted forwards by Van Domselaar, headed away well, and Marnham picking up on the loose ball, nodded clear. And now with Slegers. And Nosy. But particularly when you're playing against a rotated Brighton side, it's not a great indication. They haven't really given up loads of chances yet, but that's more through Brighton's lack of attacking quality on the field than it is through, anything else.
Yeah. Brighton, the thing is, Brighton haven't really rotated their backline, apart from Venegas. Yeah. And that's the main problem. If Brighton hadn't rotated their front line, I think they'd be ahead by now because the defence is good enough. And it's one of those where, compared to last week, Arsenal at 50-60% is absolutely good enough to smash Leicester. And that because Leicester are practically a WSL 2 side at the moment. But it's not good enough to beat a side like Brighton.
Especially when they're in good form and good spirits.
Yeah.
Smith, now to Holmberg. Knocks into the area. Sonoda with a wild tackle. And actually flicks it up towards our own goal, but it goes out for a corner. And this will give Arsenal a chance to put some pressure on. Not that corners are particularly their strength. And Brighton are very good defending them. But still, you never know what Arsenal can muster up here.
Yeah, and Fuka Sonoda will be hoping that this is cleared very easily by her side and doesn't lead to an Arsenal goal after a very unnecessary giveaway.
Indeed. So, can Arsenal find something here? Not many teams find joy against Brighton and Onadozie at corners. Can Arsenal find something? Ball on top of the goalkeeper, and Onadozie punches it away without issue. It's going to fall to the edge of the box now with Ford. Hines could take aim from range here. Taylor Hines, that's another one over the bar from Arsenal. And that 8 shots in the game now for Arsenal, 1 on target. And that was Freedom Arnhem's effort from range. Just not put Enadozie under any pressure in this game.
No, not at all. Yeah, just wild shots. And I think, it speaks to, a few attackers out of form. Marnham, Smith, Ford. Smith has found a bit of a good touch at times, but across the season, but overall not been firing. And I think that that is showing for us. I mean, Victoria Pelova, I know she's not on the pitch to be to be the standout, but I don't feel like she's really got involved in the game. Which, I think as a midfield player, you should be getting involved in everyone, and she just committed a foul off the ball here, very unnecessarily. So, yeah, just really clumsy.
And a yellow card as well for Pelova, bringing down Bex Rayner. It seems to be the head there of Rayner. And Brighton's physio is quick to the scene.
Yeah, well, now she's in the game. As I mentioned her, she decides to do something noteworthy, but it's really clumsy.
Yeah, I mean, it's silly from Pelova. It all comes because Kadina's header is just, it doesn't go anywhere. She has it directly back up in the air, and it puts them under all kinds of pressure there. But that's unnecessary, completely unnecessary from Pelova, and it's given away a free kick in a pretty decent area.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we speaking out quite a quiet affair in front of goal. Spoke about the Arsenal set pieces. Brighton, once they get to take this, they've got to turn this into a good opportunity. Can't afford to waste it. I think they're lacking a bit of attacking quality on the pitch, so an opportunity to get the centre half up into the penalty area, they maybe try and take it.
Kevin says Hines looks promising, but she's not had loads of minutes. Serena seems to rate her. Yeah, I think Hines gives you a lot, though, for a squad like England, because she can play on either side, and she gives you a very different option to something like to someone like an Alex Greenwood. So yeah, she's very useful, I think, as a squad player, and that's exactly why Arsenal brought her in, because she's a decent WSL quality player. But yeah, and I think in a side where they're rotating a couple players, you can easily rotate Hines into a WSL match, and you don't notice a difference. The problem is Arsenal don't really have backups that can play Champions League games. We've seen that when Hines has played in the Champions League this season. I think was incredibly poor earlier in the season against Lyonnais. And obviously then you don't play her against Lyonnais in the semi-finals. But yeah, I think they just don't have the rotation. The quality in rotation isn't there across the board. I think actually fullback is one area where they have got good rotation. But when you combine that with lots of areas of weak rotation, the whole side ends up looking weaker.
Yeah. So,
Brighton with this free kick. Vedson, the player, over it. And that, a lovely lifted ball into the box. Not fully dealt with. Sonoda's going to pounce and will take aim, and it's there! Brighton find a breakthrough in this game. Arsenal don't deal with the ball into the box. It's that same story time and time again for Arsenal. Sonoda pounces, fires on goal, and Daphne Van Domselaar really should do better to keep this out. But Brighton take the lead in this game. Fuka Sonoda scoring for the Seagulls.
Yeah, big goal for Brighton. We spoke about using set pieces. You've got to take advantage of them when both sides have struggled in front of goal, and Brighton doing it perfectly. Fuka Sonoda takes a bit of a deflection, which doesn't help Van Domselaar at all. But again, it's another set piece that Arsenal have conceded from. Not good enough. It's a really good ball from Tveten, but it's so poor from Arsenal.
Well, 4 players on top of each other. No one reacts to Sonoda. The deflection it takes a lot of the sting off the ball, and Van Domselaar, I think, has got to do a lot better. It's not dealt with in the box at all. I think Van Domselaar's got to save that still, though.
Yeah, to be fair. The deflections usually take it away from players, but you watching this one, it deflects.
It's so weak from everyone. It's the same thing we say about Arsenal all the time, isn't it? It's a poor header from Kadina. It doesn't get any distance on it. Pelova, it is too weak in the challenge, and Sonoda pounces. And, I mean, she is in clinical form in the WSL this season, averaging a goal, averaging 1.6 goals per game.
Wow. I mean, that is incredible.
He's not played much, admittedly, but that is the best goals per game ratio.
Incredible. But again, as a goalkeeper there, Van Donselaar gets a strong hand to it and still doesn't keep it out. I think she'll be disappointed with that one. But it looks like Arsenal are going to go into the break a goal behind.
Absolutely. Moving mine now. Receiving under pressure, clears it into Kadena, and it's just all over the place at the back for Arsenal. This centre-half partnership have had a few clangers this season, and, well, it's not been a great start here. Brighton coming forwards down the left-hand side. Here is Rayner, and she takes on Moy. Can't keep it in the confines of the pitch, and that's out for an Arsenal goal kick. Shadow up to the screen says, welcome back, says, I feel like slowly every WSL team is going to have a Japanese central midfielder. Yeah, I mean, it's 2 minutes of additional time in this first half. It's certainly a trend. Liverpool, Man City, Manchester United, Brighton now. With Sonoda, have an up-and-coming one. Chelsea, technically, if you count Hamano, more of an attacking midfielder, but does play midfield. Tottenham, if you count Hamano for now. Arsenal coming down the left-hand side. Hines, ball into the area. And now looking to break away. Can't quite manage it. Palova plays it wide. Here come Arsenal. Dropping the shoulder and cutting inside now. Caitlin Ford at a bounce around. And now with Holmberg. Clips into the box and it's cleared away well by Ola Slegers. Little. Now to Wubben-Moy. Into Smith. That's one back and Wubben-Moy. Smith. Holmberg lifting into the box. And Enadozie travels some distance but does make the claim. No issues for Enadozie. Kevin says, so poor from Van Domselaar. That would have been saved at the other end. Yeah, absolutely would have been. It's an odd one for Arsenal. I don't think rotation goalkeepers ever worked. Arsenal women seem to have done it for years now. Because they had, before this, they had Zinsberger and D'Angelo rotating for ages. Then they had Van Domselaar rotating with Zinsberger. Now they've got Van Domselaar and Borber. And throughout that run, they just never seemed to have. Zinsberger was a top goalkeeper in the WSL, started to drop off a bit. And they seem to have not really settled on a starting goalkeeper. I don't think it does any of their goalkeepers the best in terms of confidence. Because Van Domselaar was so highly rated when she was at Aston Villa, and even last season in their Champions League run, where she played almost all the minutes. But a few poor games this season. She's rotated with Borber a lot, and just seems to have struggled more. Ball into the box, headed away well by Hayes, and out for a corner.
Yeah, brilliant header from Hayes, and if Brighton can just see this corner out, and they should be going into half-time in the lead, which will not reflect well on Arsenal. But I think rotation goalkeeper, isn't it? It doesn't work for any. Look at all the clubs who do it in the league at the moment. Villa are another one who both goalkeepers had some shockers. Arsenal, I think that City obviously did do it, a bit last season. They haven't done it this season, but last season definitely.
Ball in towards the front post and into the side netting. And that may well be the half-time whistle. It is indeed here. The Broadfield Stadium at the break. Brighton lead Arsenal by 1-0. Fugo Sonoda's 44th minute strike. The only goal in this game so far. And it's Brighton who take the lead once again against Arsenal in this first half. Can Arsenal turn it around in the second? What a first half of football. I mean, not a lot of goalmouth action, Harry, but still a lot of performances and a lot to talk about at the break.
Yeah, I think that, as you say, both sides have struggled in the final third, but plenty has been happening on the ball in the middle of the pitch. And I think that, of course, Brighton getting the goal towards the end of the half, and a half that probably could have gone either way. As I say, both sides have struggled in the penalty area, struggled to create much, but Brighton using their set piece well, and they get a goal out of it, and that's exactly what they've got to do. Make in games like this where it is a bit tight and you're struggling to create something, just make things happen from a bit of nothing. Use a set piece, and Arsenal wasted a couple of theirs. Brighton got the other end and take it. A close game has been decided by a bit of quality from a set piece.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just think we've seen a really ineffective Arsenal team. They've started to even out possession as the half went on, and they started to have more sustained possession spells. But there was no progression.
Yeah.
They just couldn't break really into attacking areas. 12 touches in the opposition box and 1 shot on target from Arsenal. It's just too lethargic, a bit too slow again, I think, from Arsenal. We've seen this a few times where they are just, when they do try and control the ball, they just don't find the space to attack into. They don't move the ball quick enough to actually try and find advantages there. It's just a little bit too slow, and they're just lacking any sort of creativity. We've seen this so often when they take Al Dente out of the side. They just lack that creativity, particularly, of course, without McCabe, without Fox, without someone like a Mead or a Kelly. There's just no creativity. Smith's been, I think, their brightest spark, but I don't think she's shone much. Mon had a few shots, but a lot of them from range. Russo's not touched the ball anywhere near enough. And yeah, it feels like the same old story for Arsenal, right? Where they rotate the side and they just don't really seem to have the attacking quality. I mean, they were great against Leicester, but Leicester didn't defend.
Yeah.
Whereas Brighton have just dealt with everything, and it doesn't feel like it's been difficult for them to deal with Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that these kind of games are a massive area of management that Rene Slegers has got to re-look at and revisit in a game, because it's, did it last season as well, and it's why they lost the game to Brighton at the back end of the season. It's why they lost to Villa. It's because rather than rotating evenly across the season, she burns out the best players, gets to the end of the season, rotates the side in one, and then because it's such a rotated side, then they don't perform, because you of course there's not, as you say, they've taken, not only has she taken all the creators out, but you've brought in half a squad, or half a team that isn't match sharp. Your better way to go about it is, but in every game in 2, you just bring in a couple. Rather than taking out Carolante, Fox, McCabe all out of the same game. One game you rotate Fox, and then the next game you can rotate Carolante and McCabe, and then the next game you rotate other players, rather than rotating everybody in one game, which causes such a flip in the squad and in the form. It allows sides like Brighton to turn up here, who are in brilliant form, and get the advantage over them. I think that it's not been good enough, but at the end of the day, I kind of feel a bit for the players, because if you majority of the players in Arsenal starting 11 haven't had that many minutes this season, and they're thrown in from the off here and all expected to not only play well individually but also link up together as a team, and that's just not possible when they haven't been able to start together.
And this is the problem as well. You look at that Arsenal side today, and it's a weird mix of players who are absolutely knackered and players that haven't played.
Yeah.
So none of them look sharp. So you've got players in there like Kim Little, who has looked tired for months now. But I mean, we saw that particularly in the game against Lyonnaise. We're seeing it again this evening, where she just looks jaded, jaded, and it's understandable. You've made a 35-year-old in Kim Little. I mean, let's look at her numbers this season. She's played 16 and started 16 in the WSL of their 18 matches so far. She's played 34 in this season. At 35, she's going to play more matches than her age somehow. But yeah, it's just way too much football, and especially over a long period where obviously she's been a starter for years for Arsenal, there is that reliance on her. And it's a similar story for Mariona Caldente. I think, we've seen it with Smith as well. I just think the problem is that when you rotate the squad, you do often rely upon your starters that you are playing to really step up. But those players are really tired. They've just not got Russo on the ball at all. I think she's really struggling to impact the game. I think that there's just nothing really around her to combine with. Yeah. It's way too open. So she's dropping to receive the ball and still doesn't really have anyone to combine with. And she's vacating the space, but there's no one that really wants to break into that space. No one really wants to take advantage of that. The only chance Arsenal have had is by trying to go long. It's not really working. It getting cleared and then just taking a long shot. Or slowly slowly moving the ball forward, getting frustrated that they can't break Brighton down. Eventually someone gets half a yard of space and they just take a shot from range. Yeah. That's all they've really offered in this game so far, Arsenal. There's not been a sort of... It looks so methodical, but there's not been any penetration. There's not been any urgency when they do get into the areas to make something happen. So that's been a real problem. And yeah, Jennifer says still can't see Brighton winning, but you guys did say Arsenal had some unfavourable fixtures in there. Well, you said it weeks ago, there's no way Arsenal win all those matches. And again, it's a simple case of rotated side just isn't good enough.
Mm.
Matt Black saying players complain they don't get enough minutes of play time. When they do start, they can't perform. It's very difficult to perform though when you're not playing at all, and then you suddenly go in. It's like, go and perform. It's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, exactly that. And of course, I agree. I think there are certain rotation players that aren't good enough for Arsenal, and of course that is a factor. And yes, with injuries and other circumstances, players have been unavailable, but that's the same case for every side. So that I don't really take that into much consideration because every team struggles with injuries at this level of football. So yeah, I think that it's that balanced rotation has to be stronger. And yeah, you can't, as a football player, if you play a total of 90 minutes for across the first 18 games of the season, and then you're expected to play a complete 90 in one game, you're not going to be able to deliver because you're not match sharp. You haven't played against his opposition. You haven't played in games to know what is required, and it's very hard to find a top level from absolutely nothing. You say this isn't Leicester City. You can't just rock up and find your feet and still smash them. This is a very good Brighton side who have already beaten Arsenal this season. So, yeah, I think that the expectation that Slegers could just throw in 6 players that haven't really played and expect them to deliver and try and beat a Brighton side was always going to be difficult.
I know a lot of fans will hate this comparison, but it feels like we're going back to the same complaints or the same criticisms we had of the Idaval era, where they are just too slow on the ball in a lot of matches, and the sort of depth options aren't good enough. And I feel like the Champions League obviously papered over a lot of those cracks, and that was an incredible victory. But the reason we look at this season, and we sort of said this about the last summer, we said they need a big rebuild. Then they won the Champions League, and we went, they're probably not going to do anything now. Probably a lot of players will get contracts when they wouldn't have been offered those, and I think that's exactly what's happened. I don't think enough happened last summer. They brought in Smith, a really exciting signing. They brought in Kelly, who I think is fine, and they brought in Taylor Hines, and obviously Holmberg then joined in the winter. But they didn't kick on particularly. They didn't replace a lot of players. Instead, I think they kept a lot of players because of the Champions League win.
Yeah.
Rather than using that as a time to go, right, we are the most attractive proposal in the world right now. Let's go and sign quality across the board. Let's refresh this squad. Let's really believe in Slegers and kick on. Instead, I wouldn't be surprised if she was complaining the same way as Mark Skinner does. Yeah, I mean, she's got a little bit more grace about it, but she would be very much justified to go into press conference and say, well, we don't have enough options. That's why we haven't rotated enough. And so I think the criticism goes both ways. I think, you can very much criticise Slegers for not rotating enough over the season. That's why you get into this kind of position. But I think you can also criticise the fact that recruitment hasn't been there. They spent £1 million on Olivia Smith, I think will be an incredible player in 5-10 years' time. But again, this comes back to Arsenal's thing of, are they building for 5 years' time, or are they building for right now? Because they've got a lot of players, and you look at signings like Mariona Caldente, that's a signing for the here and now. That's a sign to go and win today. Even signings like Hines, I don't think it takes them up a level, but it builds out the squad to win today. But then you look at a lot of their other transfer recruitment, and it's let's go and win something in 5 years' time. Yeah. And of course you need a mix of both, but it just feels like they're not pointing all in one direction.
Yeah, exactly that. The squad gives massive mixed messages, and the problem with that is that you're trying to go and win things with a squad that with certain players that aren't quite ready and aren't quite delivering to the levels you need them to, or you're happy to just compete and see what happens, but then the top players like your Carantes and your Russos are sat there going, well, hang on a minute, I want to win trophies, because suddenly you're now looking at, when was the last time? Yes, okay, the Women's Champions Cup, but if we're talking major trophies, when was the last time Mariona Caldente had a trophyless season? That's unheard of. So that will be very disappointing to her. And I'm not saying she's going to up and leave, but that is not what's expected. She'll turn around and go, "This is that's not good enough."
Yeah.
You come from Barcelona and you're winning trophies left, right, and centre, especially, but there will be top players who will, as I say, they're not. I'm not saying they're going to push for moves and kick up a fuss, but they will be frustrated and disappointed at the fact that Arsenal haven't won a major competition this season. That is a big concern, and I think especially you're looking at domestically, didn't reach either of the finals, and if they lose today, they're going to be a bit under a bit of pressure to even take second, and suddenly you're looking at a domestic season where they finished third, and which is still decent, but when you consider how poor Man United won 1 in 9, so it wasn't too hard to finish third. And then you're looking at both domestic cups where they weren't anywhere near winning them. So yeah, there will be concerns. And as I say, it all comes down to the fact that the window wasn't good enough. The window's got to be big this summer. And I mean, they need a big 45 minutes anyway to turn this around. But yeah, long term, they've got to get the window right this summer.
Kevin says, who should Arsenal sign? Who can they sign? Well, I think all the players have been linked with so far are great signings. I think Geraldine Reuteler brings in exactly... I mean, a lot of people talk about Bate and Stanway. And obviously, I mean, I understand that. Yeah. But I think Reuteler's the best signing. I think Reuteler is such an exciting player. I think it gives them exactly what they need in attack. And that is someone who is going to pick up the ball and get shots away. It's going to create chances. Is going to be a very dynamic, very fluid player. Yeah. And it should push Russo back up front, which I think is so important. I understand why they've pushed her deeper. They don't really trust Marnham. And they'd love to put... I mean, they should be putting Caldente higher up, but they don't really have another midfielder they trust. So that's kind of why they've shoehorned Russo in there. But Russo's best work comes up front. And... I think she's great at dropping off, but you need someone to push up into that role. You think about where Russo's thrive. Back at Manchester United with Toon who'd push into that role. But on the international stage with Toon who's going to push up into that role. You need someone like that, and Reuteler's going to fill that kind of gap because Russo can drop. Reuteler's going to push into that space, or she's going to drift wide to offer another option. It just gives you someone who I think is much better suited to what Arsenal want. I think Stanway similarly gives you a different option midfield. I still think that they need another midfielder. I think if they could look at next season with Caldente playing higher and then have a pivot of Stanway and another midfielder, they'd look in a great shape. I think they'll probably stick with Caldente in the pivot and rotate between Stanway, Caldente and Little. But because they seem to love Caldente in that deeper role, which is just bizarre to me. Caldente is one of the best attacking players in the world, or at least was last season before that. I don't get why you want to play her in defensive midfield so much. You'd think the recruitment this summer would be geared towards playing Caldente back in a higher role, because I still think she can offer so much in attacking positions. Bate comes in, I think it gives you a lot more defensive security. I think in terms of area to target, Arsenal cannot go without signing a centre half.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because but I don't think, again, I don't know if they will, because Williamson's not going anywhere, obviously. She's just signed a new contract. Catley's just signed a new contract. Wuba Moy has a decent deal, and I think still another at least a season or two. And you got Reed. But that's 4 centre backs. So you'd have to bring if you're going to bring someone else in, you're going to sell someone. But they've just renewed the contracts of Williamson and Catley, and it doesn't feel like they want to move Wuba Moy on, which I kind of understand. But I wouldn't. I think Steph Catley's been a fantastic servant, but would you not look at someone that can really kick them on a gear? That would be my question. So I don't know if they will sign another centre-half because they're not going to get enough minutes. They'd be in a similar position to Kadena, who hasn't played anywhere near enough minutes, really. And I know she's not performed, of course. But, yeah, I think it makes it difficult. But they need a centre-half, in my opinion, if they're really going to kick on in that position. I'd say goalkeeper, but again, they've signed Van Donsel and Borba, so are they going to sign someone in that role? Probably not. I haven't spoken much about Brighton. Brighton were brilliant. In that first half, a rotated side, and they looked the better side. I think the weaknesses for Brighton came in areas where they simply had, I think, players who haven't played much football this year.
Yeah, exactly that. They are lacking quality a bit in the final third, and that's because they've rotated in those areas. Defensively, the fundamentals are still there, and that the back 4-5 that we've seen start all season has done very well to hold Arsenal.
Indeed. Well, we said Arsenal need creativity. Mariona Caldente onto the field at half-time. Can that be the spark they need in this second half? Is Arsenal get us back underway? Russo from the middle. Waiting for the referee's whistle. And I believe it's Palova who's come off, which is a bizarre decision. But we are back underway in this game. Arsenal, can they find a way to come back in this match and get one over Brighton? Or will Brighton, like they did just a month ago in the FA Cup, beat Arsenal? So yeah, it is Kim Little stays on, Palova comes off. And I get Palova's on a yellow card, but that does feel a bit silly to me.
Yeah. Again, they've rotated too heavily, or they've rotated too many positions, been put into a negative position, and now they're forced to bring on the starters again, which means that resting. Yes, Carante's had 45 minutes rest, but that's not ideal. I wouldn't call that resting a player. Resting is either they don't play at all or they come on for 10, 20 minutes. So, it's far from ideal.
Yeah, and I think what you could have easily... I get Palova's on a yellow card and you want to protect against that. against her getting a second yellow and impacting this game. But
Mm.
she's looked better than Little. And that's not because Little's not a better player. I mean, Little gives the ball away again there.
Yeah.
Here come Brighton. Rayner trying to go down the line. Hines does well to get back in there. But she just looks so tired, Kim Little.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely understandable. She's played so much football this season. Ball out towards the right-hand side. Holmberg knocks it down the line. Smith turns away well and does draw the foul there of Marissa Slegers. Jennifer says, maybe Mariona is similar to Hasegawa from a comparative advantage standpoint, is better played deep. I disagree. I think that Arsenal coming forwards now down the right-hand side. Holmberg's found a bit of space. Can she find the right ball? Cuts it back for Russo, who should score. And just, I think, kicks up into her own foot there.
Wow. I mean,
Big miss.
I thought of taking deflection because of how wildly it was just bobbled through and went out of play. But no, brilliant from Holmberg, bursting down the right-hand side. The cutback's a good one, and Russo should really do better. Catches it all wrong. It's brilliant from Holmberg, and the cutback, it's a flat ball. And yeah,
I don't think
Russo.
anyone's actually caught that to a point where we can actually see what the shot looked like. But
No.
I don't even think it did kick it into her own foot. She did kick it. I think it was just a scuff shot wide.
Yeah.
Big miss from Alessia Russo. Arsenal back in possession now, though. Here is Cadena. But no, Kalate and Hasegawa are very different players. Hasegawa is an incredible interceptor, a bit of a metronome in there, very good at dictating the play. Of course, can offer creativity in attacking areas, but she's so good at just controlling games. Whereas I think Caldente is much more of a high-volume creator, a better player in those pockets and stuff like that, and doesn't really offer the same defensive output that you want from a player in that kind of position. Brighton win back possession again. Here's Camacho. Great interception there from Hayes, who stepped in front of Russo again. And it was Shadow mentioned it at half-time, completely forgot to go over it, but said, what did Kate Hayes have for breakfast today? She's been so good. Yeah, I think Hayes is one of those where if she was even 5 years younger, particularly 10 years younger, would be on the radar of all the top clubs. But because she's 30 and spent a lot of her career in the Scottish Women's Premier League, just hasn't had that recognition. And I also think came in her first 6 months of Brighton really poor. She joined the January transfer window. But she has improved so much this season, obviously had the off-season to really adjust to Vidicic's system. And I think it's been so good this season.
Yeah.
And just shined in these kind of games where I think she's done a number on Russo on a couple of occasions this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the consistency that she plays with is top class. And I think we see that Champions League experience shine through, actually, when she plays against the top sides. Because she's one of the only sent. Look at the clubs lower down the WSL, and she's one of the only sides that has dealt with the best European forwards while while playing for mainly playing for Celtic. But yeah, has done incredibly well this season. But it also shows what happens when you put a strong goalkeeper behind centre halves, and when you complement that with other top quality defenders.
Arsenal playing to the right hand side. Here is Holmberg, puts it into the air, and a chance now as Hines sends that over the bar. Just couldn't quite catch it the way she would have wanted to.
Yeah, and again, that's where playing Hines in the McCabe role doesn't really work out, because I think of course Hines is pretty decent coming forwards, but running onto that ball, you probably want a player that is slightly stronger in front of goal than Taylor Hines.
Or a winger who's got the prerogative to come inside.
Yeah.
Because what should happen there is that your winger darts into that position and your fullback goes out to take the wide position. But instead it's forward holds the width and Hines comes inside. And I guess that's okay if it's a McCabe, or if we're looking at next season, is that going to be an Onabate coming into that kind of position? Then it's kind of all right. But normally you want your winger to dart inside. Now to Nordam out to the right-hand side. McLaughlin cushioning it back to Rule, and now that ball hit looking for McLaughlin again. Bounces away, and away from Caitlin Ford, and out for a Brighton throw-in on this near side, going down the line. Vidicic looks fairly pleased with what he's seen so far in this game. Haven't really slowed down from where they left off in the first half. Ball up the line. Cadena doesn't deal with that bobble, knocks it out of play. Throw in for Brighton again.
Yeah, important stages now, because what Brighton did very well in the FA Cup game was they got that second goal and it gave them a cushion, and it left Arsenal with a lot of work to do. But tonight, if Arsenal can just keep it at 1, and if Brighton don't get a second, then I think the Gunners will fancy themselves to get back in the game. But I think it's one of those where Arsenal still haven't really looked like scoring. Couple good chances though to start the second half, and that's a bit more positive. But they really did not look like scoring in that first half.
CW wants to strange as Brighton, the undefeatable. Yeah, they've done really well in this game. They turn it over high again. Tvedson. Camacho takes aim from range and not quite able to hit the target. Got to do better. I think got to make life difficult for Van Donselaar.
Yeah, I think I can understand why she's gone for it, but I think probably the wrong decision. You've turned it over and you've got an overload here. Yeah, you've got Tvedson coming with you. You've got Rayner on the far end side as well. And yeah, it was a bit of an audacious attempt, really.
I think she's got to hit the target, though, there. Van Donselaar's backtracking, and I think it's a real opportunity. Ball one high again. I think Raw's a little bit unlucky there. It wasn't too forceful on Caitlin Ford. Ford, though, goes down and wins her side a free kick. Nigel went to the stream. City fan says, lads, my heart is pumping 40 more minutes. Please, Brighton, all I ask is to not concede 2 goals. Indeed, City are not far away from being crowned UWCL champions.
I love the thought they're going to do it while they're all sat there watching on their sofa. Imagine finding out your UWCL
big
champion.
sofa if they're all sat there watching on it.
That is true. But in my head, I've got like Leicester 2016.
Yeah, not quite as dramatic as the Battle of the Bridge this
no.
game, but it would be a great achievement nonetheless. Hines now to Ford. Looks to cut inside Caitlin Ford and forcing a big stop out of Enadozi, who does brilliantly to push that up and over the bar.
Yeah, really good. Goalkeeping from Enadozi. Much better from Caitlin Ford. It's direct. It's quick from Ford. Brings the ball down and looks to cause problems. Cuts inside nicely onto her right foot. And that is a strong save. Brilliant reaction save from Enadozi to get up and tip that one over the bar.
Indeed. A fantastic stop from Enadozi, who has had such a good season. Has made goalkeeper of the year a bit of a one-horse race. Corner now for Arsenal. Smith trying to impact Enadozi's ability to play the ball. Enadozi can't quite get there. The header, though, from Arsenal. Straight into a Brighton defender, and they can't make much happen with it. Tvedson here chasing down Hines, who's going to drop deeper here with the possession. Goes back to a goalkeeper, Van Donselaar.
Another Arsenal corner, where in 10 seconds they're back with their goalkeeper.
Yeah.
They've got to improve on set pieces next season. Defending and attacking.
Indeed, coming forwards now, Arsenal. And well, Ford's pass hits Marnham. Will bounce its way through to Holmberg on the right-hand side. Holmberg looks for support. Wants to dart down the line. That's blocked. And it'll bobble out of play. Well, actually, it stays on there on the touchline. Just pounced up and down. Holmberg inside to Little. Now to Caldente. Can she get a shot away, Caldente? She does. But a comfortable claim for Enadozi.
Shock. Bring Mariona Cowan down to the pitch and you get shots on target.
Yeah, a bit of threat on the edge of the box there. Probably would have expected her to do better in this kind of range. She's got the time there to really test Enadozi. It was quite a comfortable save in the end. But that is Arsenal's second shot on target of the game. Ruled. Or third, sorry. Trying to play that forward pass. Caldente will get there. Slips it through. Looking for Smith. That's a great tackle from Minami. And it will be pulled back for a foul. I'm not sure who committed this for Brighton. I think it was Camacho. So Caldente and Arsenal get a free kick.
I think that's very generous, saying that Arsenal had already played the ball through the lines.
Yeah. Yeah, referee pulling that back quite a distance. Here is Ruben Moy. Bill, welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying another Arsenal game. Here is Ruben Moy. Ball slipped through to Caldente. And it's blocked away well by Sonoda, who got back in there, trapped the run of the Arsenal midfielder, and out for a corner.
Things are just ticking now. Mariona Caldente is on the pitch, and Arsenal are just moving it a bit quicker.
Yeah, Arsenal 75% possession in this second half. 5 shots away so far. Starting to put Brighton under a bit more pressure. And while these corners are mounting up, they've got to work out how to take one eventually.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a conversation here between Smith and Enadozi. The referee talking to them. Enadozi making it quite clear it's Smith that is getting all over the Brighton goalkeeper, trying to limit her ability to impact on these corners. A header from Cadena is blocked by Rayner. And out for another corner.
Another really poor corner. You know, it's just, at least they're picking out red shirts now, but it's just the quality of header or attempt on goal is just, it's either blocked, which shows they're not getting enough height on it, or it's well wide of the goal.
Holmberg over this again then. This one into a better area, headed away well by Hayes. Now Hines looking to keep it alive, lifts it back on top of the goalkeeper, and Dozy there. A great claim under pressure from Marnham. She's going to look to release it quickly out to Charlize Rule, and Brighton want to catch Arsenal napping. But Arsenal do enough there with the counter press just to force them backwards. Hayes out towards the right-hand side. That will bounce out for an Arsenal throw.
Very intrigued to see how Vidicic plays this now, because although he's rotated to prioritise the cup semi-final, will he now sense an opportunity that they're 1-0 up and look to bring on the stronger players?
Yeah, I guess what does the opportunity get them to? Yeah, they could go and get 3 points here, but it doesn't really matter either way. And the players out there are getting a result as it stands.
Yeah, true.
I get your point. If they needed the 3 points, then absolutely. I think we saw it with who's the side who put out a stronger team second half. I can't remember now. But unfortunately, now Caldente looking to lift it in behind. Great ball. It's one back by Enadozie, who sweeps well. It was in the men's Premier League. Sorry, it's with Nottingham Forest. They put out a rotated side against Chelsea. They started winning. They felt their best player to get 3 points. That's them now pretty much confirmed safe. Camacho.
How easy was that?
And out to the right-hand side, direct pass from Enadozie into Camacho. Here's McLaughlin on the right wing. Camacho back towards McLaughlin. And now Charlize Rule. Sonoda. Lovely twist and turn to get away. Now knocks it wide to Camacho. Tries to put the ball in the box and it's blocked away well. And now Russo losing out to Caitlin Hayes. Phil says at this point, I'd be happy if we just signed somebody from the WNBA for corners. That'd be no help, Phil. You'd constantly get cards for handballs. That's not allowed. Can't just cheat. Here is Van Domselaar. Wide now with Ruben Moy. Carrying the ball forwards. Now, Arsenal need a Gabriella, really. A big Brazilian centre-half that they can just, smash into the goalkeepers and score corners. Caldente slips it through, looking for Ford, who's going to square it. Enadozie miles off her line. But Minami on hand to steer it away. And Ford probably should have taken the shot on there. There was space, tried to square it. No one in a red shirt able to get there. Arsenal probing, though. Here's Caldente. Marnham just about taking it forwards. It's clumsy from Rule, but the referee seeing no issue with that challenge. And I'd love to see that on a replay. It just looks like Rule catches Marnham. I'm not sure if it's enough to send her down the way she goes, but let's have a look. Taken forwards.
That's a penalty.
Yeah, it's clumsy from Rule.
That's a penalty. I can't really understand because the referee was dead certain.
I think he argues there wrongly that there's not loads of contact.
Yeah.
And I guess from his angle, it looks like a bit of a brush. Yeah, I think just comes across a bit too assertively there, Rule.
I think Arsenal will be frustrated by that one.
Indeed. Of course, that Ford is so frustrating. I think we'll just let that statement sit there on its own. It speaks for itself. Yeah. Just catching Frida Marnham there. I thought initially she'd made a bit of a meal of it, but I don't think she does much there to even try and buy it. Just, getting caught hip-tip contact.
Yeah, the problem is I can only imagine that the referee's seen that, she doesn't trip her up. There's no contact with the feet or anything, but yeah, that's...
I guess the other argument is that Marnham's kicked that in front of her. Was she going to get there?
I don't. Again, though, I
think it's a penalty. I'm just saying, if we're looking at it from the referee's opinion, is that what he's seen in the moment?
Yeah, he'll have an explanation. I think he's completely missed the fact that Rule stepped across and made hip contact because there's no contact lower down. But yeah, that's a bit of a miss.
Caldente lifts out to the left-hand side. Hines trying to keep it in play. Just about manages it. Now needs support, and it's back with Ford. What can she create from this position? Gives it to Cadena. Caldente. Now with Hines. Kanate lifting it over the top, and now for a Brighton goal kick. Half an hour to go then. Let us know in the live chat what you've made of this game. What do Arsenal need to do in the last 30 minutes to turn this game around?
Yeah, it's difficult because that 15 minutes has flown by, but it was a positive 15 minutes, and I feel like that penalty shout was the is the convincing one. Yeah, that's the warning for Brighton. And I think that it does feel like something's coming for Arsenal, and they are readying a triple change, which is not the change they would probably like to have made tonight, but they need 2 goals.
Indeed. Arsenal coming forwards. Lovely give and go between Russo and Marnham. Marnham should score, does score. Coolly dispatches of the opportunity, and that is what we wanted to see between Russo and Marnham tonight. They haven't combined well enough, but this was tidy. Russo drops to receive. Marnham makes the run beyond. A tidy combination and slotted home well by Marnham. We haven't seen that enough between Arsenal's forward players, but that's a lovely combination and a great finish from Frida Marnham.
Yeah, brilliance from Marnham. Lovely stuff between her and Russo, and the finish is top class. Very, seen a lot of players go near post or, put this well wide, but very composed from Frida Marnham, who's, not been in the goals too much this season, but this is lovely. Opens up the body and just finds the bottom corner. Nothing Endozi can do. Brilliant finish from Marnham, and I think it's fair to say that has been coming in this second half.
Yeah, absolutely. Arsenal have turned it up a bit. I think bringing Calden saying has just allowed them to control the midfield a bit more. And this was good. Russo turning out of trouble, really, of Hayes, finding a bit of space, and it just gave them that bit of difference. Lovely combination. Really well taken as well by Frida Marnham. And Arsenal firmly back into this game. Assertive from Sonoda. Here is Rule. McLaughlin down the line. Rayner. With Caldente on her back. Trying to create something here. Trying to find Rule. It's just too weak. And here's forward, breaking away with possession. Pokes inside to Marnham, who turns out of it. Arsenal playing with a bit more confidence now. Ruben White back to Cadena. And now Marnham loses the ball in midfield. Nordam slipping it through, looking for McLaughlin here. And Brighton looking to reinstate their lead immediately. McLaughlin twisting and turning. Trying to find an opportunity to clip the ball in. Now Rule breaking into penalty area. Cannon takes out the challenge. Cut back now for Rayner, who turns, and it's saved by the feet of Van Domselaar. Cleared, but only as far as Nordam on the edge. Now goes backwards. Here's Hayes. Will step forward with possession here. Caitlin Hayes tries to shift it inside. It's won back by Cadena, but Hayes recovers it. Rule wide with McLaughlin. Shifts it back to Hayes. To Rule. Nordam. Now Sonoda. Through the lines to Rayner. Nice turn. Here is Rule. Wide with McLaughlin. Right on this touchline, and a free kick is there. Coming together, and the referee calling on the physios. I don't think he gave a foul there, did he?
No. Is it a head injury? I think it might be. But yeah, good reaction from Brighton, looking to respond immediately. Yeah, just a clash of heads between Ford and Rule. But yeah, good response. And I think that this was lovely from Rule as she darted through the area. And I think Rayner does...
Brilliant turn from Rayner, got away from Little. Just has to do better with the shot for me.
Yeah, just looks to, I think, just come back at this near post, but it's too straight. And again, it's smart from Van Domselaar, smart save with the feet. But Rayner's got to trouble her more than that.
Pushed out of trouble as well. Easy to spill that one back to the Brighton attackers who were lurking.
Yeah.
Ready to take advantage. But yeah, did well just to push it wide. But Brighton, yeah, re-attacking with a vengeance. Haven't really come forwards in the second half, but that was a much better move. And now, the Arsenal triple change. Justina Blacksenius entering the field. And it is a triple change for the Gunners. Blacksenius, Katie McCabe, and Beth Mead. Marnham makes way then, so Russo will drop into the 10 role. Beth Mead coming on to one of the flanks. And it will be... Well, Hines makes way for McCabe, and a triple change coming for Brighton as well, which we'll get to in a moment. And then I believe, is it Ford or Smith who's made way for Mead? The graphics are incredibly slow. You would think it may well be Caitlin Ford, who's still down here, if not a bit of an odd decision for Arsenal. It is Olivia Smith who makes way. So hopefully nothing serious here for Ford. As Beth Mead comes on. Triple change then for Brighton. Camacho making way for Haley. Venegas on for Minami, who's obviously on that yellow, and they won't want her to get suspended ahead of the FA Cup game at the weekend. And then Rayner off as well. And that'll be Kiko Seiko. So Brighton bring on some big guns as well as Arsenal.
Yeah, both sides fancying to try and find a winner here. But very efficient. 6 subs in the same break. Very smart from both sides all round.
We're not getting any added time.
No.
No one wants to be in the Royal Stadium longer than they have to be tonight.
Everyone wants to get home. But yeah, very efficient. But yeah, both sides rolling the dice then. Not sure. Surely Arsenal haven't been given the ball back. No, it will go to Brighton, correctly.
McCabe and Ford are complaining about, but it was Brighton's possession, so not really sure what Ford and McCabe are complaining about here, but can't say I'm surprised. Here is McLaughlin. And so, Brighton looking to get back into the lead. Arsenal want to complete the comeback. Ball round the corner from Haley, looking to find the runner Sonoda. One back by McCabe, who effort to clear it is blocked, and it's out for a throw-in for Arsenal. McCabe wants to get on with this. Just brought on for a reason to try and turn this game into a victory. Ball played forward to Axenis. Just misjudging it. Hayes winning it back. Looking it through the lines. It's turned over well by Arsenal. Little. Now it's the right-hand side here. Carrying the ball forwards is Beth Mead. Holmberg overlaps. Mead, though, delays. Now back to Caldente. To Mead. Wide to Holmberg. He's got space here for the cross, and it's blocked well by Ola Slegers. And now a corner for Arsenal.
Yeah, all the momentum is with Arsenal at the moment. And Brighton are just, they've had fleeting chances to get out the field, but they're just struggling to break the waves from Arsenal, who are looking to just build on the equalizer and get what you feel would be a winner.
Indeed. Corner now then for the Gunners. McCabe over this. Who can she pick out in the box? Puts it in there on top of the goal. And it's headed away convincingly by Brighton. I mean, we talk about Arsenal not being able to defend corners. They really need to look at their opposition tonight and how they've dealt with them. Because Brighton have just got it clear every time without an issue.
Yeah.
Haley here, requiring some assistance. Just got caught there in the challenge. Actually, it's a teammate, I believe, Hayes, who headed into her, knocking her into Little.
That's like a bit of a pinball effect there of Madison Haley's head. Knocked into by Hayes and then rebounded off Little. But yeah, the last thing they want to have is bring her on, and then she picks up an injury which puts her out of the semi-final.
They've got to be careful for now.
Yeah, and that would be that's the thing. It's really weird. We've got 20 minutes here where for Brighton, as much as they'd like to keep their unbeaten streak going, this game doesn't have too much bearing on their season. Whereas for Arsenal, I mean, of course they've still got games in hand to catch Chelsea, but they'd rather the pressure not be on. If they can win tonight, beat Villa, then suddenly they'll have a decent. They could put themselves in a very comfortable position.
Mead knocks it back to Wibbermoy. Now Cadena. Yeah, they should get second, Arsenal, which obviously would give them automatic Champions League football for next season. They don't really want to go into the playoffs. Played forwards, Venegas deals and offside against Blackstone side of the way.
And that's the thing. If they win all their games in hand, then it doesn't matter what happens on the final day. They're confirmed second. But a draw here, or a draw or a loss here, and suddenly, if they slip up again, it opens the door for Chelsea to take that runners-up spot.
I think a draw would still be okay. Because they could still draw again, and they would get it on goal difference, because their goal difference is much stronger than Chelsea's at this point in the season. But yeah, they'd want to have it a lot easier. They can secure it before the final day, which I think they would prefer to do.
Yeah, you just want to take that pressure off.
Venegas back to Anadozi. Sends it long. McCabe Trying to bring it down there. Gets caught by Kiko Seike. And gets the free kick. Okay, want to take it quickly. Didn't really have the options on. Shifts it across the back line now. Here is Wuben Moy. Trying to get that under her control as it bobbles around her feet. Now Caldente splitting the centre-back partnership. And, well, Brighton can't afford to give her the same liberties they were affording Cadena. A forward pass picked off by Venegas, and Haley now goes back to our goalkeeper, Enadozi. Into Hayes. Now Venegas. Heavy touch. Does well there to ride the contact of Holmberg, and then is fouled. And frustrated reaction there between Holmberg and Mead, but I don't really see what the issue was.
Yeah, I think half a foul was committed by both of them, which in turn adds up to a foul.
McCabe. Caldente pokes it forwards. Now Nordam. So I like the qualifiers. Great to get up to speed before the season. Yeah, I mean, it can, or it just elongates the season. I think if you look at United, I know they've obviously had to contest with Champions League football, having their first season of Champions League football on top of everything else and not really having the depth in the squad. But I think they started their season 2 weeks or a month earlier than everybody else. And I think they're feeling that effect now, on top of obviously everything else I just mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be the same issue for Chelsea or Arsenal, but yeah, I don't think it helps.
Yeah, I think it depends on the squad size. I agree. If you've got a big squad, then I think it is actually quite a nice way to start the season. But like Maya Letitia had, didn't need to, if she could have done without those 3 or 4 games at the start of the season where she had to play, 3 sets of 90 minutes.
Ball out towards the right hand side. Can't quite find Sonoda. I mean, they're coming very difficult, especially if you come up against like a Swedish side who are mid-season or a Norwegian side who are mid-season. They can be incredibly difficult games. You just don't really need that stress.
Yeah. I mean, Arsenal ran to Paris FC a couple of years ago and got knocked out.
No doubt. Yes. Even the biggest fans of Jonas Eidevall will admit that was a failure. Not sure many of those exist.
How many big fans? I'm a big fan of Jonas Eidevall.
If Jonas Eidevall is watching this stream, he will be he will be annoyed. Here's Venegas carrying it forwards. Now to Sonoda. Out towards the right-hand side. McLaughlin feeding it through. Looking for Seike. Was Kadeen. Did Kadena put that down there? She's offside. Kiko Seike. Kadena gets away with one there. I think the referee was considering it. Looked over his assistant referee first, because that was a foul from Kadena, and that perhaps making up for the earlier one. Was Seike offside? Will be the question. I think she just goes too early, doesn't she? Don't think so, actually. Kadena is
that is
level with that and pulls her down.
They're level now. For the mile one earlier, they're level.
Brighton are going for this. Kankovic onto the field.
That isn't the way that we should ever look at football. You shouldn't look at it going to even itself out. Both are massive. I mean, both are big decisions that were missed.
I mean, you look at like the Champions League at the weekends.
Maybe that's different if the flag doesn't go up, but I didn't know the referee was going to give it.
Little now to Wuben Moy. Back to Holmberg. Phil says, if Jonas is watching, I hope he falls off his chair.
The thought that he is watching and he just read that.
Oh, what a guy. I think Arsenal should bring him back. Here's Russo breaking down the left-hand side. Now to Kadena. Again, wanting a forward pass. Rousseau back to Caldente, who comes inside. And the referee there blocking Brighton's clearance. It will be a Brighton drop ball. But yeah, make sure to share the stream. That will help the chances that it falls into the inbox of Jonas Eidevall.
That's what we all want.
Love to have Eidevall on. That'd be incredible.
Oh, brilliant.
I'd thank him for his years of service. Ball's down the line. Headed on by Tvedsen. Good hold up from Haley. He's brought down. That's a free kick for Brighton. They progress the ball. And I thought the referee may look for a yellow card there.
For a very physical centre half, Kadena does a lot of complaining that that she's not like that. She getting pulled up on it, or even when she's not getting.
I think she just grabs players, and it's surprised she doesn't get away with it.
Yeah, maybe.
Venegas. I think, if you are a Barcelona in Liga F, you're going to get away with things like that a bit more often. Or you won't be in that position to have to make those kind of challenges. I just don't think we've ever seen her adapt to the league. Here's Sonoda. And that's always the concern when you buy players from Barcelona. Defensive players, attacking players should adapt fine.
Yeah.
If they can handle the physicality of the Champions League, I don't think the WSL is too much of a jump up. Definitely a more physical league, but I don't think it's a ridiculous jump up. But defensively, it is a lot more difficult. I think we're at a point now where there's going to be a bit of a bottleneck coming, because there are about 4 or 5 teams now that want to finish 5th. And all of them could probably play in Europe and be okay. But that just isn't going to happen. And we've already got 4 teams competing for 3 spots. With the way London City are investing, and Brighton and Tottenham and Liverpool, Villa have the aspirations as well. Those sides all want to be able to break into the top lot, but they can't really. There is nowhere to go. McCabe goes down the line. A dubious throw-in. Finding Blackstenius as well, though. Blackstenius drifts inside, knocks it back to Kim Little. Little touches it on towards Ruben Moy and back to Cadena. Now Caldente. Cadena. Cut out well by Seike. Caldente. And wide now with McCabe, who's going to lift it in towards the back post. And it was not a great ball from Katie McCabe out for a goal kick.
Yeah, not ideal for Arsenal, that.
No. Not at all. Slegers doesn't look best pleased with her trip to Crawley. Hasn't gone the way they would have wanted it to. Now here is Enadozie. Thought about playing it into Simmons there. He's under a lot of pressure. Thinks better of it. Seike losing out to McCabe. And now Ford tries to get around McLaughlin. As Ford comes inside, it's a bit messy. And there is the foul there committed by Ford. And Arsenal complain, but not really, again, sure why they've got any complaints.
Yeah, strong, really good recovery from McLaughlin, who lost out initially.
Full side. Ford doesn't touch the ball, touches the player, brings her down.
Yeah. And again, Dozie's happy to take her time out of the game here. Brighton would be very keen to take a point from this final 11 minutes. I think Arsenal, the momentum was there, got the equaliser, but I feel like they haven't really kicked on from there.
Great pressure here as Brighton turn over up the pitch. Haley trying to get there. One back by Nordam. Chance now for Haley, who can get a shot away. Big block from Little. Clumsy at the back, though, from Arsenal. Almost giving Brighton a great opportunity.
Yeah, great. Sorry, Ruben Moy gets caught on the ball, and the ball spills out with both Ruben Moy and Tveden on the floor, and it's 3 Brighton players that charge at it and 1 Arsenal. Arsenal just do not react in there.
There's an urgency, there's a desire. Brighton want the win.
Want to be careful in those defensive areas, because that could have easily, if Little doesn't get back in there to recover, Haley had a great chance to put Brighton back in front.
Indeed, and Manchester City are now 11 minutes away from winning their first WSL title in a decade. Ball in from Brighton. That's headed away well. Seike. Ola Slegers. Turned over by McCabe, who will twist away. And Blackstenius losing out, and it's deemed to, as she flicks up there, hits the hand of Tveden. Sonoda's been thrown on the floor. All sorts of carnage ensuing. But Arsenal do now have their free kick.
Yeah, just Ola Slegers just shows too much the ball to McCabe, and McCabe does want to jump in and time it well. But again, all that messing around, taking a minute out of the game.
Well, Cadena there shoved Sonoda because you want to take the free kick quickly, which has slowed things down immeasurably.
Yeah.
Here is Caldente. Now McCabe. And back to Cadena. Seike's going to get there and plays it forward, tries to rush that pass into Nordam, He's just going to keep poking it forwards here and battling away from it. Love it from Nordam.
We'll keep doing it. She might get in the goal. Just kept poking it 2 yards past the player. Can't keep it, but again, it's positive.
Also, we look like a team coming off the back of a season-ending Champions League loss. Yeah, they look a very tired team, this Arsenal side. So they've played a lot of games this season, obviously going deep in quite a few competitions, FA Cup quarters, semis in the Champions League and League Cup. Probably finishing second in the league. They've played a lot of games, obviously won the FIFA plate as well. So, lots and lots of games in there, and yeah, just look incredibly tired. And there's a lot of players who either aren't good enough or haven't played enough and don't look sharp. Forward. Blocked well. That delivery by Kiko Seika, and Arsenal with another corner.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to put it, really, from Phil, is that, it looks like a side who know they've not got anything to play for. Now, yes, the title, it's never going to happen. Let's be honest, never going to happen.
No.
And
Champions League almost feels too easy to do.
Yeah.
Like, even if they draw tonight and they draw to Villa, which are both very realistic, they should beat Everton, they should beat Liverpool.
Yeah.
And they don't want to leave it down to that. But their goal difference is so strong that they have such advantage over Chelsea. You can't afford to take these games in hand too easily.
United.
But I think Arsenal realise they won't need to overexert themselves. And even if they do end up third, they're still in Champions League football for next season. They've already got 2 points ahead of United. And are United going to beat Chelsea on the final day of the season? Feels very unlikely.
Are United going to win again?
And if United do, then Arsenal should get ahead of both of them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Arsenal aren't too concerned about the position they're in now. Caitlin Ford making way, then Arsenal throwing on more big guns, and this will be the introduction of Chloe Kelly. Can she be the difference maker they need? Hop, skip, and a jump as she enters the play for Arsenal.
Yeah, good to see her back from injury, but you don't want to be relying on a player who's just come back from injury to find something magical in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not quite the position that they would have wanted to be in Arsenal, but can Kelly come up with something to get Arsenal in front in this game? Who knows?
I love to see the photographers quickly turn all their cameras as Kelly enters the field to get the shot. Holmberg. Can she produce something worthy of a photo? Venegas clearing the ball forwards. McCabe deals with it well, just knocking it back to Van Domselaar. Time ebbing away here from Arsenal.
Stings that from Brighton. Nordam on McCabe's back, which means that rather than McCabe being able to turn around and play the ball forward, she has to go backwards, and it just, again, kills time.
Yeah. Blacksenius. Carrying inside. Venegas. Battling away. They're up against Mead. Does run out of play, though. Thrown for Arsenal. Throwing short to Blacksenius. Mead. Holmberg. Blocked by Venegas. Mead again. Lifts it in there. Header on target. Saved well by Enadozie. So this was prime Barclays. We would currently have every few moments like a live footage of all the City players sat there watching the game.
Yeah, that's what I need.
That just doesn't happen anymore.
All round Jeglert's house.
I just want to see, I want to see a pop-up and they're all at Jamie Vardy's. Ball poked forwards. Blackstenius lifted through. It's a bit of a mess at the back. Enadozie does well enough though, and she's dribbling out of a goal here under pressure. Brilliant from Enadozie. Gets caught by McCabe. McCabe now shouting in her face.
Kelly,
sorry, yeah. Actually, will be booked for that. And she's still here having a go, Kelly. And that some pointless performative act there from Chloe Kelly.
Venegas just laughing at her. He's brilliant. So, yeah.
She just lumps into her off the ball. It's like she gets annoyed that the goalkeeper things, and then she responds by shouting in her face. That's just pathetic from Chloe Kelly, and a deserved yellow card.
I hope someone's going to clip that up. But Manuela Venegas just walking over and just shooing her away while laughing. It's brilliant. But yeah, that's not what Arsenal need, though. Slegers hasn't...
Yeah, great sub.
Yeah,
to go on there, get annoyed at Enadozie,
get booked,
dribbling past her.
Get booked and take 2 minutes out of the game, and now Enadozie just... Oh, no, they're all making a sub.
Brighton, and bringing on Frank Kirby. They want to win.
I was like, I'd be very annoyed if I was drawing 1-1 with a team and Frank Kirby came on for the last 5 minutes.
Oh, allowed to Bedton. Her first start for Brighton today. I don't think she's done too badly, to be fair. Showed glimpses of what she can offer. A brilliant creative player. Just had that opportunity at the start. How different would her first start have looked if she buries that chance. But Yeah, it's often difficult. 90 seconds into a game, you're not ready really to take those kind of opportunities. But Tedson, I think, really impressed. A player who, with a full season of football, or full pre-season, I think next season will be really one to watch for Brighton.
Yeah.
I've got my ones to watch for next season's predictions video sewn up already.
Nice.
I think we'll be reviewing our predictions very soon. We'll go back and watch that video.
Don't want to do that.
I think I said Wimberg, which, you know what, I think she's done okay this season as a ones to watch. Or biggest improvement, something like that we did. Ola Slegers, now Sonoda. Venegas. Ball lifted over the top, bounces through to Van Domselaar.
Needs a bit of urgency now for Arsenal, really. They're into that point of the game. It's got to go quickly. And Kadina's currently just dribbling out the pitch at a very slow and leisurely pace.
McCabe to Caldente, back towards McCabe, and Seike pressing aggressively. And I'm not sure how much contact Seike actually made there with Katie McCabe. Would like to see a replay.
Yeah.
Because McCabe seemed to jump before Seike was anywhere near her. Caldente. Back towards McCabe, picked off by Kiko Seike, and too eager. Can't quite keep that under control there, Seike.
She'll be annoyed, because if that is a reasonable touch, then she's in.
McCabe. It's just got a bit sloppy from Arsenal.
Mm.
Like they're protecting a lead, but they need a goal. Doesn't need to be loads of urgency.
No.
Just sort of needless fouls, and it's been a bit sloppy at the back.
Yeah.
Van Domselaar lifts the ball over the top. Blackstone, so she timed this one well. It appears she has. Can she find a teammate in the box now? Breaks into the penalty area. Brilliant defending from McLaughlin. And well, Arsenal with a corner. We haven't seen them do much with these set pieces. And I think Brighton won't be too annoyed at conceding it.
Yeah.
But can Arsenal muster something up now? Holmberg over it again. Tankovic warming up next to her, trying to put her off. Holmberg. Where will she deliver this to? In towards the middle of the area. It's headed away well. No one pouncing quicker than Frank Kirby, who nods it clear. Kelly. Not a great cross. Hayes is assertive, and then it is Rayner, I think, in there. No, not Rayner. McLaughlin who clears it away.
I'd love to hear set piece numbers.
It's 9 in this game.
But just this season,
I don't think can you see threat from set pieces?
I'd say unsuccessful corners. How many times have we seen Brighton just Arsenal's put the ball in and Brighton easily get there first and just head it away?
Yeah.
Oh, that is launched by Ellen Dozy. Exactly what she needs to do.
Arsenal 3 goals from set pieces this season. To put it in perspective, Man City have 15.
Yeah, but that's who's second?
Villa and Chelsea both with 7.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's not.
Aston Villa 7 goals from set pieces from 3.9 XG. Arsenal 3 from 8.5.
Brilliant.
Just have not been particularly clinical from set pieces.
No.
And set piece goals conceded. Arsenal with 3. Brighton only 2. Holmberg. In fact, I thought that would have been higher for Arsenal.
Yeah. But the things like the Sonoda goal today, do they count? Is that a set piece goal?
But I guess they haven't given that. If they don't concede loads of set pieces,
True.
It's not really the opportunity, is there? I don't know if that would count as second, because it's kind of second phase, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's still, I don't know. Here's Kelly. I think that's too many touches. 5 minutes of additional time, or 6 minutes of additional time. Sorry, chance still in this game for Arsenal then, or Brighton, to be fair, to win it.
Surprised ref didn't just blow the whistle there.
Inside to Little. Now Ruben Moy. Mead. Floats it in. That's a great claim from Enadozi, who travelled a distance, but comes and collects it. Brilliant stuff from the Brighton keeper, who's once again been excellent. She punts it long, not really seeing an option. Phil says we concede from second phase, we can't head it clear. Yeah. So again, it comes down to how you judge set piece goals, because some people would still call that set piece. Ball in, head away from Venegas. Now Mead. Caldente. Knocks it wide to Holmberg. Caldente. Mead. Caldente. Back wide to Holmberg. It's got to go in the box at some point for Arsenal. Now Caldente. Tries to feed it through, blocked by Haley. And Frank Kirby is going to punt it up in the air. And Jen's just going to chase it. Van Domselaar comes off her line. And hoofs it clear. I think she's going to be lucky that goes out of play. It could have been pounced on there. Didn't really get the distance she would have wanted.
Mm.
And now Brighton in possession. Simmons sent forwards by Rule. Haley. Now Sonoda. And McKay pounces well. Trying to drive it forward. Seike competing with her physically. Did pull her shirt though, and it will be a yellow card for Kiko Seike and an Arsenal free kick.
I think Vidicic will pay that one for her.
Yeah, they get the point over the line. Tony Bloom might be down there with the checkbook. Just can't afford any red cards. Of course, Brighton, they don't want anyone suspended for this Sunday's match. Make sure to join us live for that. Brighton taking on Liverpool in the Women's FA Cup semi-final. What an occasion. One of those sides will reach the final to face either Chelsea or Manchester City. Ball sent forwards. Ball bouncing around. Looked to hit the hand there. Blackstenius. And it's been pulled for a head injury there on Caitlin Ford or Caldente. Couldn't quite see. Now, well, Cadina's just shouting in the face of the ref there. And not sure what's been said, but looked quite aggressive.
Yeah, Arsenal want a penalty. It's not a penalty.
No. So as Russo went down and then hit the hand of Blackstenius. I mean, it's not a penalty at all.
No.
And then it clearly strikes the hand of Stina Blackstenius, so it should be a Brighton ball here. Rather than say, not about something in there.
Yeah, Arsenal do not seem to be too content, but I don't think there's anything wrong in there.
No, that's not foul.
No. It's going to add to the additional time, though.
Yeah, Russo receiving treatment. You don't think it'll all add, though.
Lots of words to be said between everybody.
He's complaining there, Tanner Dozy. Yes, again, that goal from earlier in the game. Arsenal didn't deal with the set piece. Van Domselaar should do a hell of a lot better. Fuka Sonoda, her second double herself, goal scored earlier in the season, I believe, against Aston Villa. Scoring again today. Frida Marnham levelling them up, though. A lovely combination between her and Alessia Russo. And a tidy finish from the Norwegian. So Russo receiving treatment does go off the field. Much to the delight of the travelling support behind the goal, who will be chanting one of their couple songs. As Alessia Russo prepares to re-enter the fray. As Sonny says, does Russo need to play every minute of every game? Give her a rest. She has played an awful lot of football. I mean, never doesn't start for England.
Yeah.
Always starts for England, always starts for Arsenal. Plays a hell of a lot of minutes. Hayes sends it forward. But again, it just comes down to Slegers just not trusting her squad. They don't really have the options in attacking areas, so they don't trust Marlon for bigger games. So Russo and Blackstenius are both having to play. I mean, they don't really have an option to rotate their striker.
Yeah.
Throwing for Brighton, they're going to take their sweet time. I think Vidicic is preparing to take this one. McLaughlin. Simmons. McLaughlin sends it down the line, and, well, Northam just about gets away from Cadina. Cadina running the risk again there. It's far from the first time she's been holding someone into the penalty box. If Northam had gone down there, you'd have made a strong argument for a penalty. Sonoda heading out towards the left-hand side. Kirby's going to get there. Looks to carry it forwards now. Frank Kirby up against Holmberg. What can she create in this position? Now to Haley. Inside to Sonoda. Ola Slegers, Sonoda, Haley, and now Kirby. Trying to play it down the line, looking for Haley. Kadina does well there just to see it out. Sonoda, sorry. Good battle. Now Arsenal playing it quickly. Van Domselaar to McCabe, who's going to launch the ball forwards out towards the right-hand side. It's a great knock from McCabe, who gets Arsenal going quickly. Now Holmberg. Mead. Holmberg. Ball into the area, bounces through, and out for a goal kick.
Yeah, not quite the ball that Arsenal needed. A little bit overhit. No one making that back post run. And although Russo's down for a little bit, I can't imagine there's going to be too much longer to be played in this one.
Indeed, and this would be a great result for Brighton.
A win, a draw, and a loss between these two sides, or
No competitions, yeah. Headed on by Seike. But this looking a much better result than the one Arsenal got when they faced Brighton last May.
Yes.
But it would make it 2 consecutive trips to the Broadfield Stadium without a result in the league for Arsenal. I mean, their winless run at the Broadfield Stadium in the league would continue to at least 3 years. That's a record I think Brighton will be immensely proud of. If they could have a bit more consistency against some of the sides lower in the league, they wouldn't be in a bad spot.
Yeah.
McLaughlin going down the line, finds Seike. I mean, you look at this season alone, a win against Man City a number of weeks ago. I think they got a positive result against United as well earlier in the season. Well, they got a positive result against United last weekend.
Yeah.
With the draw. And only lost 3-2 back in November. Al Dente. Venegas smashing it away. Kirby will give chase now. Kadina does enough there to hold on to possession. Arsenal have got to move it forwards. 2 minutes over. They have lost additional time, of course, with Russo down. That makes sense. But it is giving Arsenal the liberty, the chance to find a winning goal. Holmberg. Sonoda slips. It gives an opportunity. Me trying to play it back through. Sonoda back to her feet. A great challenge. She's had a really good game, Fuka Sonoda. And we spoke about players getting that chance to impress. Sonoda has definitely done that today. Mead inside, looking for Caldente. Tries to drift off of Ola Slegers and makes a fantastic tackle. And it's out for an Arsenal corner. Can they use it now? As we tick into the 99th minute of the 6 allotted. Van Domselaar up for this corner.
I mean, Russo wasn't down for 3 minutes.
No. No, it didn't feel that she was. Arsenal with this corner. They haven't offered much from corners. They put it in towards the near post. And that, their best attempt, headed well over by Kadina. And that is a full-time whistle at the Broadfield Stadium. Manchester City are your UWCL champions. That's the biggest talking point tonight. Arsenal slipped to a draw against Brighton. And Manchester City are the 25-26 UWCL champions. An incredible campaign. And they've waited weeks and months to finally seal it. But they do finally seal it when they're not even in action. But what a moment for Andre Jeglerts and his side.
Yeah, massive season for City. And they were disappointed that they didn't seal it on the pitch themselves. But Brighton doing them a big favour, having beaten them a couple of weeks ago. But what a season for Man City. Brilliant from Jeglerts coming in and delivering in season 1. They've had a brilliant campaign. They've steamrolled everybody. And yeah, massive credit to City. A night I'm sure they're going to go out and enjoy with one game to go. But yeah, what a season. Still in the FA Cup as well. Yeah, massive season for Man City.
Absolutely. And they've done it with a sort of remarkably low points tally. They've done so well, I think, to showing the competitiveness of the league this year. They've dropped points on 4 occasions. They're still going to get the title, and that's important. They could still get to 53 points, which would match Chelsea's from a couple seasons ago. But yeah, I think it's a testament to how difficult it's been to compete in the league this season. There's been such a big jump from that mid pack up the league. And yeah, City have done well. They've capitalised on Chelsea having an off season, United not really being in the races, Arsenal's inconsistency. They've been the most consistent side. Well, there has been blips towards the end of this season. Absolutely deserved champions, Manchester City. And the question now will be how they go about sustaining that. But for tonight, at least, they will just enjoy being WSL champions. The first time since 2016 that that Man City have won the league, and the first time since 2019 that someone other than Chelsea has won the WSL.
Impressive.
Absolutely, for Manchester City to turn it around and just finally stop Chelsea winning the league indeed. Nigel loving it in the live chat, as is Non-Bilo. Sunny wishing congratulations as well. But yeah, that was a really well-drawn performance from Brighton. Exactly what we expect from them. It's another example of them taking points off a top team. And I think they'll be very happy with how their season has gone. If they can avoid defeat the final day of the season against Tottenham, they will secure top half. Of course, they win that game. They will finish. They'll definitely finish sixth. But yeah, I think they've done really well this campaign. There's been some big moments. They've still got the biggest game of the season this Sunday. They could get to the FA Cup final. What a moment that would be for Brighton. But yeah, will be fascinating to see that game. Make sure to join us live for that game. We're back for Arsenal, though, more pressingly on Saturday, so look out for that one. We're also back tomorrow night with our weekend roundup. It's another Thursday episode, obviously. With Arsenal playing so many games in weird moments at the moment, we are kind of all over the place with Arsenal with the weekend roundup. That is back tomorrow, though. Make sure to join us for that. We're covering everything you've already forgotten about from the weekend, as well as, of course, tonight's game. So look out for that tomorrow. Make sure to join us there. And look out on Friday, because we've got a very exciting piece of content coming your way. For the first time, a professional club has allowed us in their training ground, and we shot an exclusive interview with Charlton manager Karen Hill. So look out for that on Friday. Can't wait for that to drop. But very exciting times. And we're back this weekend with the FA Cup semi-finals and, of course, Arsenal Aston Villa. So look out for all of that this weekend. That was everything. That, guys, very much watching, and we'll see you next time.